Welcome, everyone, to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. I'm your host, TJ, and with me again, as always, is our NHL analyst and expert, the grumpy old man. They say there's no shame in his game because he's always the same.
That's me.
Now, Grumpy, a lot of Islanders news. I know it happened live on air. Kyle Palmieri, Travis Zajac. I have to ask you a question before we get the ad read here by DraftKings. You did a complete flip-flop on last week's live stream and podcast.
Do the ad first.
Oh, do the ad
because
first.
Because what's going to happen, I'm going to go into something, and then you're going to complain because I'm going too long on a Sunday night here. It's practically midnight over here. So no one's going to be listening to our podcast because TJ insists on doing these late Sunday nights. He doesn't care. He's up till 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, other people have jobs. They've got to go to work the next day.
All I got to tell you is this, grumpy old man. We like to have the most current podcast we can. We'll release to the Monday podcast section.
I don't care. I don't care. Because if no one listens, it doesn't matter. I keep telling you this. When no one listens, it doesn't matter.
Grump, come on now. Turn that off. Anyway.
I'm going to keep my phone on from now on.
Grumpy, as you could tell, is a little upset about the late start time or the Sunday evening start time. But we do have an ad here from DraftKings. Basketball season won't be around forever, so get in on all the action now with DraftKings, the leader in one-day fantasy sports. DraftKings is giving new players a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. Claim your free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes when using the code THPN during signup. Playing daily fantasy basketball is simple. You just pick your lineup, stay under the salary cap, and see how your team stacks up against the competition and feel the sweat like never before. Every dunk, steal, assist means so much more with DraftKings daily fantasy lineup. Baseball fans also. You don't want to miss out on the season-long fantasy. So now is the time to get on all the daily fantasy action where DraftKings has even more ways to make it rain. With DraftKings, payday comes every day for players. So what are you waiting for? Head to the app now and download the DraftKings app now and use the code THPN during signup. This week, DraftKings is putting you in all the action at free shots of millions of dollars in total prizes. The code THPN, and you get free shots and millions of dollars in total prizes only at DraftKings.com. Minimum of a $5 deposit is required. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Grump, I don't know if you hear this cat meowing, but let me go ahead and grab this cat. I don't want it to cause destruction here during the podcast. But grumpy old man, I didn't ask you.
I didn't hear the cat.
Okay, well, don't worry. Good. I do want to ask you, though, Grumpy. You made a complete flip-flop on last week's podcast. You started off, initial reaction was the trade was an F-. Then you amended your grade and gave the trade a B. Can you kind of tell me what was going on there, Grump? I've got a pressure on this issue.
Yeah, it was like, the 5 stages of grief, denial. First of all, I couldn't believe they even made a deal. Shocked. Didn't think they'd make a deal, right? Then anger. Here we are pissing away another first-round draft pick for a rental. That's really good. Then bargaining. Well, okay, maybe it's a good deal. Maybe it's not. And then you got depression. Hey, I was depressed we gave up that first-round draft pick. Is it even going to matter? I mean, we're not good enough to beat Tampa. And finally, acceptance. I'm like, okay, whatever. It's going to be what it's going to be. At least we're going for it right now. So I went through the 5 stages. Everybody, the 5 stages of grief. When somebody dies or something, it takes people, weeks and months to go through that. The grumpy old man is so advanced. It just took me like 45 minutes. That's all.
Here's my question for you, Grump. Do you not think that was a good move by the Islanders?
We'll see. We'll see.
Take a position, my friend. You're on the Islanders Never Say Die podcast, Grump. I want you to take positions.
Okay, here's my position. Why is he not playing on the first line, Palmieri? Is that why he was traded for? I mean, if you're going to trade for a couple of third liners, why are you giving up a first-round pick?
Well, it wouldn't be the first time we traded a first-round pick for a third liner, if you do recall, Grumpy.
Well, I still think those are overpays. That's my point. You're overpaying for guys. That's my whole thing. It's not like Toronto makes a trade for Foligno today, right? Well, hey, they give up a first and a fourth. They got Foligno and some other ham and egger. But here's
they got Nosen, Stefan Nosen, and as well as Nick Foligno for a first and 2 fourths. My thing is this.
Okay, no, let me finish my point. You jumped in. I didn't know. I said some other ham and egger, and you jumped in. Here's the thing. Toronto is a young team. Their whole core are young players. They can afford to trade number 1 draft picks. We are an old team with nobody in the pipeline. It's not wise for us to trade number 1 draft picks, I don't feel.
Hold on. You're going to give me an aneurysm. You're going to give me an aneurysm today, Grumpy, because this is the podcast where we're going to do a normal segment here at the beginning, and we're going to open up the phone lines. We're going to have it to where you, the listeners, can call in. I know I've been promising it for a long time. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Well, that time is here. We're going to have that time period. I have to ask you this, Grump. You say the Toronto Maple Leafs have a young nucleus. We've got a relatively young nucleus around what we can build too, right?
Absolutely not. Our whole core are old guys. They're over 30. What are you talking about?
You're going to blow my speakers in half, Grump. This is my thing, right? It's not our entire core. We do have young pieces we can build around. You mentioned Toronto's extremely young. I mean, I could make an argument. John Tavares is no spring chicken over there.
Yeah, but Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, those guys are all young. Morgan Riley. I mean, they're young guys.
Ryan Kulak, Noah Dobson, Adam Pellick. Stop. Hold on. Stop. You're talking about we're not young. We do have younger pieces too. Toronto's no spring chicken now.
Take off the orange and blue glasses, will you please? We're one of the oldest teams in the league. Toronto's not. We are.
I'm saying Toronto's no spring chicken.
They're
a really young team. They're not. And you talk about the price. They gave up a first and 2 fourths for Nosen, who's got a guy who's been playing most of his minutes down there in the A, as well as Nick Foligno. Yeah, but we go ahead and bring back Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac for essentially a first and a fourth.
Yeah, okay, but here's the thing, right? Why are they willing to go all in? Because they're going to be one of the final 4 teams. I'm going to guarantee it. They're going to win that North Division. They're going to come through the playoffs because they're the best team. What do they need? A lot like Tampa last year. They needed grit on their team. And maybe they overpaid for a little bit. But you want to know something? They're guaranteed to get to the Final 4. Guaranteed.
Stop with these guarantees. Nobody's guaranteed anything.
Guaranteed. They will make the Final 4. Guaranteed.
Jesus Christ. I can't.
They need more sandpaper, more grit. That's what these 2 players bring to them. Just like Tampa. Are they as good as Tampa? No, they're not. Are they going to win the Stanley Cup? I doubt it. But they're closer than we are, and I can understand why they did it. That's my point. They're loaded in the minors, and they're a young team. Their core is young, 24, 25 years old. Okay, not our core. We have some young pieces, but our cores are the Baileys, the Crocs, the Averages, all those old geezer types that we have on this team, the Leo Komarovs. And then we go and trade for Palmieri and Zajac. I think they actually lowered the team age. I mean, Zajac's 37 or 36, and Palmieri's 30. I think that lowered the average age of the team.
Now, do you feel like you have to go ahead and stick with your original position? Jesus, man. I'll put it to you like this. Even if you're arguing that our team is an older team, we can't be affording to give up first-round picks, then look at it through this lens. The team is so much older, right? That means our window's more finite. That means we have to make a push for it now. Otherwise, you don't have any chance. And all you're going to be doing here is throwing a above mediocre chance after chance if you're not going all in. So instead of you getting one of those high first-round picks, you're getting picks all in the mid to late 20s. And you're not going to be able to go ahead and execute on every single one of those picks. And then you just prolong your agony, right? To play devil's advocate.
You can play devil's advocate all you want. I'm worried about the future of this team. Not because here's the thing. We're not good enough to win a cup, right? If you're not good enough to win a cup, your goal should be to make yourself where you're good enough to win a cup. Here's the thing. Why did he make the trade? Because we do have a finite window. Just like I said 2 years ago when I said, blow it up and start over. Don't invest a whole lot in a bunch of old guys. At the time, here's the thing. You look at 3 years ago, you had the same cast of characters for the most part, right? And have we been good enough to win? No. We have not.
Christ. I don't even know where to begin with you sometimes, Grump. I really don't.
Because my name's not Pollyanna.
No. It's not because your name is Pollyanna. Listen to me, right? You talk about how our window is finite. That means we need to make a push, okay? I'm letting you know something. Have a realistic expectation. Lou Lamoriello is 77 years old. Do you think he came in here to do a rebuild? Hell no. And he shouldn't do a rebuild either. We were on the cusp, and here it is, right? I have no idea how accurate these rumors are. In the same token, though, they're saying that we're still even kicking the tires on Taylor Hall.
Well,
Here's my thing. We're
what do
going
we have?
all in, and you said that trade is an F- to a B, and now you're back to an F-. I'm just trying to find where you're more consistent.
I didn't say it was an F-.
So you said, let's wait and see, man. Come on now. You just seem like you're flip-flopping.
I think what I eventually said was that it's good for today, but bad for tomorrow.
Okay.
I mean, and Lou Lamoriello is a GM. I don't care how old he is. His responsibility is to the future of the team, not just 1 year. A general manager is responsible for many years. He has to be thinking down the line, not immediately.
The responsibility of a general manager is to have not only stability, but also to make drives and to win Stanley Cups, which is what we're seeing right now. I'm going to ask you, so you flip-flopped. I want to know what your final assessment of the trade is today, because again, the Islanders might not be done. They had the Devils retain half of the cap hit. My question for you is, what do you grade the trade at today? I'm giving you a chance. You had a chance to kind of go ahead and sit back, relax on it, think a little bit more thoroughly. What do you grade the trade at here today?
It depends on where he plays in the lineup, honestly. I mean, the first 2 games were bad. Today, they thankfully bring Oliver Wahlstrom back in the lineup, right? I mean, I think we can all say that Travis Zajac, he's like Leo Komarov on the first line as well. I don't understand myself. Yeah, that first round pick wasn't for Travis Zajac. It was for Kyle Palmieri. Why is he not playing on the first line? I mean, you want to improve. I mean, isn't that what you want to improve your scoring? I don't know.
Here it is. Here it is, right? I don't care where he plays. He needs to play more minutes. He can't be playing third line minutes. That's the most important part, the portion, right? And it's funny. You talk about Oliver Wahlstrom, and this is a funny topic. I'm not saying mix it up a little bit on social media, but it's funny. You see all these believers. As soon as it happened, Brian Compton comes out there with a tweet. He doesn't say this. I'm paraphrasing Grumpy Old Man. He said, there's surely Oliver Wahlstrom sitting out because this has to be injury related. I said, really? Do we think this is injury related? Oh, well, he left in back-to-back games and, he came back and this definitely has to be injury related. I'm like, he was healthy enough to come back. And this is my thing, right? Being an ex, I can tell you, every single player at the end of the season is hurting. They've got their nicks. They got their bumps and bruises. That's how that works. Okay. So if somebody getting a maintenance day, I'm like, I'm not necessarily buying it. And then it slowly starts to progress. Oh, well, no, it wasn't because he's injured. Now it's because there's a roster move involved with it. I'm thinking to myself, oh, okay, well, maybe they didn't want to lose Leo Komarov because they didn't want to go ahead and have to throw him back to the taxi squad. Little did I know, he was actually exempt. He's exempt for this week. So the only thought process I could have is Barry Trotz wanted to keep Travis Zajac and Kyle Palmieri somewhat together to get them before they were able to get acclimated on different lines. So he decided to roll out Leo Komarov. Whatever. The main point I have and takeaway from this is that Oliver Wahlstrom needs to start every night. I don't need to see Leo Komarov at all anymore in the lineup, ever, unless it's due to injury. Ideally, you want Kyle Palmieri on that first line. Matt Barzal is able to go ahead and draw that space and draw off defenders to him. We saw today, Kyle Palmieri has a nasty shot. And that's my thing. When you're able to give him that space, you see what he can do. We even saw what he was able to do with some space on a third line here today. And you saw how Oliver Wahlstrom was able to feed off of that too. I think Kyle Palmieri needs to be on that first line. I'm not sure if he's going to because, interesting point, Grump. Does he want to have somebody who's more defensively responsible and not as much as an offensive juggernaut? I mean, does he want to go ahead and try to spread it across all the lines? Travis Zajac definitely is a little more defensively responsible, I feel like, than Kyle Palmieri in the limited sample size I've seen him in. They both do a good job in that aspect, but still, I think the lines are subject to change.
Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the one thing I learned today, but I knew it going in. I said it 3 weeks ago, and I'll say it today. Goal scorers like Oliver Wahlstrom have to play with other guys who are creative offensively. It just makes them better. When you're a goal scorer, you have to play with offensive players. Burying him on the third line, and I realize I'm saying third line, the checking line, let's say, is not conducive to his skill set. Regardless of what Barry thinks, he should be playing with either Matt Barzal or another offensive line. What happens? When Beauvillier's on that line, another offensive player who drives play, what happens? he goes on a big goal scoring streak. You take him off and you put a Ross Johnston or a Leo Komarov or any of the other ham and egger jags that are on this team. They do nothing, absolutely nothing. Kyle Palmieri comes in and he plays with them. All of a sudden, boom, that third line blossoms again. Why? Because you have 3 players who actually know how to play offense on it.
Okay. The reason why the third line looked excellent today is because Kyle Palmieri is more than a third line player. Gabriel Pageau, in most situations, it's more than a third line player, and so is Oliver Wahlstrom. I've told you that third line would serve as a second line, if not better than most second lines in the NHL.
Yeah, but that's my point. You see, when you take an offensive type player, an offensively gifted player like Beauvillier off that line, it dies on the vine. It just does, right? The same thing with the second line. As soon they did absolutely nothing when you had the Michael Del Coles on that line. Nothing. You put Beauvillier, someone who drives offense, all of a sudden the second line scores. What are you doing on the first line? Travis Zajac, Leo Komarov, they're anchors for that line. It's the Matt Barzal line. Matt Barzal and everything else. You look at what he did today. I mean, he absolutely created 2 goals today all by himself. All by himself. I just laugh when I hear, people say, hey, Matt Barzal's not that good or this or that or the other thing. And I'm like, he needs to play more of a team game. You know what? That's ridiculous. He is the team. He is the team. I would love to see him with another winger who could actually produce. I'd love to see it. I think it'd be fantastic.
That's the point you want to drive home?
Yeah, pretty much. Travis Zajac works on the first line just as good as Leo Komarov.
Okay, stop. Okay, Leo Komarov is hideous. At least Travis Zajac. Again, I've only seen Travis Zajac when the Islanders play the Devils and the short sample size of 3 games he's been here so far. I'm not going to go ahead and paint and tarnish Travis Zajac's name at this point of his career with a Leo Komarov, okay? So I'm going to have to pump the brakes a little bit on you there. That being said,
they're the same guy. They're the same. What I mean is they're guys whose job at this stage of their careers, Zajac was a producer in points years ago, but he's not anymore. He's more of a third line guy. And somehow he's playing on the first line. I don't understand.
Okay. I don't care how the lineups work. Honestly, I'd like to see Palmieri in the first line, but I'm not splitting hairs at this point. We really don't honestly know about who works well chemistry-wise with who out there on the ice. The biggest takeaway is, thank God, Leo Komarov is not in the lineup anymore. He feels comfortable with mixing up Zajac and Palmieri on other lines to where Oliver Wahlstrom can be put back into the lineup. That's a huge point. Now, the trade deadline's coming up, Grump, and I don't know how much validity you put in this, but a lot of rumors. And again, albeit they're only rumors, Islanders are knocking down the doorstep there for Taylor Hall. Do you take anything in that?
What do we have to offer for Taylor Hall? For 15 games of Taylor Hall, what do we have to offer?
It's not the 15 regular season games. It's the postseason that you really want. You want the chemistry to build up with Taylor Hall, but it's more looking at the postseason. Don't say 15 games because, it's being a little facetious. We're going to make the playoffs. It's going to be 15 plus.
Would you say that Taylor Hall is a better player than Kyle Palmieri? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. He's a better player than Kyle Palmieri. All right. If you struggle with that answer, I don't know how we're going to go forward with this conversation. He's a better player than Kyle Palmieri, regardless of this season, how the stats are going. But you don't have that first round.
You're not a Kyle Palmieri fan, first off. Palmieri's had how many seasons with 30-plus goals year after year? I don't know. Right? When you look at overall play, I will be very interested to see if Taylor Hall would actually play into this system. We've talked about it before. Would Taylor Hall even buy into this system?
Well, you're talking about maybe trading for Taylor Hall. And if that's the case,
that's the rumor. They're saying I'd be shocked if they're not kicking the tires again on Taylor Hall.
Okay, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, who's the better player? There's a reason why I'm asking. If you had your druthers, a former league MVP, 2 or 3 years ago, league MVP, and Kyle Palmieri, who for most of his career has played on a losing team, who's a better player? It's Taylor Hall.
Taylor Hall's played on a losing team his entire career also, so don't forget that. But yeah, I would pick Taylor Hall over Kyle Palmieri. But again, Taylor Hall's played on a losing team his entire career too.
Okay, that's fine. You have just given up a first-round pick for Kyle Palmieri. What would it take to get Taylor Hall? Do you think a second-round pick would get it done? 2 seconds? I don't know. I think he's a better player, and you've already moved your first round pick. That's why I thought the price, if you're looking for both guys, I thought the price for Palmieri was too high. If you're looking for both.
Okay. I want to repeat this here to you again. All right. We have first round picks, and we'd have to give up a prospect for that. You ask who's better. I don't think it's as simple as a cut and dry answer as that. This team under Barry Trotz is all about system. It's not about what player is the best. It's all about system. We've talked about it many times.
So
who
then why
fits
would
best in the system is always the most important question. Adding offensive talent with that is nice, but it's who fits best into the system.
So who would sit if Taylor Hall comes in? You think he's going to sit He's not going to sit Palmieri. You think he's going to sit Zajac? I guarantee you that's not happening.
Yep.
It's going to be Wahlstrom.
Yeah.
He's going to be the kid he's going to be the one who sits. Why? Because he's not 30 years old, first of all.
I'm not saying I support that. I'm just saying that is the rumor. And again, albeit it's a rumor. Yeah, I try to take everything with a grain of salt, but I like to entertain every single possibility that's out there. I'm not saying that, hey, we need Taylor Hall. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if we trade for a guy like Taylor Hall, which, we're rumored we're still kicking the tires on, I will be interesting to see what exactly the thought process is and what the lineups are going to look like. That should tell you all you need to know about how finite this team's window is, because if you make two of those enormous trades, a guy like Taylor Hall is going to cost a first and then a prospect of value. So think about it. You would have given up 2 first-round picks this year, a fourth, and a prospect of value. So, take that as you will, but that should be every single sign. If we were to make a move for Taylor Hall, holy shit, we're in it all the way.
Okay, so
trust me, I'm not down for trading for Taylor Hall. I'm really not.
Okay, so that's my whole point. So you would be willing, if they was to bring it in, you'd be okay if they went all in and traded next year's first-round pick and more prospects in a weak prospect pool to bring in Taylor Hall for 15 games in a playoff run.
Oh, hold on. I just said I'm not supporting a trade for Taylor Hall. I'm just saying we're kicking the tires on him.
But like I said, we don't have anything.
Don't confuse it.
To me, we don't have anything of value to trade for him anymore. We just don't. We gave away our first round pick for a third liner, Kyle Palmieri, and Travis Zajac. I'm just confused. That's all.
Okay. Well, you can be as confused as you want. These lineups you saw tonight are not the end lineups that you're going to see during the postseason. Even if they are, whatever. That third line of Kyle Palmieri, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, and Oliver Wahlstrom would be unrivaled and unmatched. We saw the havoc it was able to wreak today. Today we saw how deadly of a first period we had. We were absolutely dominant. And how many chances did that third line generate? Again, first period, unbelievable. And the reoccurring trend of a hideous second period then follows after, where we come out, going to the third period with a tied game.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Palmieri was not perfect tonight. On the power play, when we gave up the 3-on-1 break that they just turned the puck over inexplicably, Palmieri was way too deep. He was standing next to the goal. It's like, what the hell are you doing? I don't know. I just don't put a whole lot of weight in guys coming over from New Jersey. I don't know. I don't know. Here's the thing. He's got a good shot. He works well with that third line. I'd like to see him get a shot playing with Barzal. I would.
It's 3 games in. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. We're going to see how things transpire.
And actually, that's the only reason that I'm even thinking about, okay, I'm happy with that. But because the first 2 games, they were abysmal, the first 2 games. Let's call it the way it was, right? That Palmieri and Zajac were terrible the first 2 games.
Okay. I don't like, you and I had different definitions of terrible. Completely different definitions of terrible.
Goal scorer got to score. You train for goal scorer, they got to score.
Okay. And he did score today. Okay. I just don't want you to be one of those, or pretending to be one of those fans where it's like, oh, we made a trade. Kyle Palmieri didn't score 17 goals in his first 13 games. Come on. Give it a break. It's going to take time for him to build chemistry. No, you can't just be thrown into a new team and a new lineup and say, hey, I've got lightning in a bottle. Let's try to be realistic here, huh?
Well, let's see. Like I said, I'm willing to give it. I'm willing to give it a chance and see. I'd love to see him playing on the first line. To me, your first line is your scoring line. It's more important that they score.
We get it, man. I'm just saying. So, end result, you don't have a grade for this trade. Bringing it back full circle. No grade for this trade by the Grumfield man. I'm sticking with a B. Again, I think the value that we got for what we gave up is good, and you're going to see that more and more people are going to have to give up more for players of that ilk. Would you say? Would you say? Stop. Would you say Kyle Palmieri is better than Nick Foligno? Yes. The answer to that is yes. At this point of his career, a 34-year-old Nick Foligno is not the same level as Kyle Palmieri right now.
I think
we can agree on that.
I think Nick Foligno fits what this team does better than Kyle Palmieri. He is exactly the type of player that fits on this team.
Can you answer my question?
Do I think that he is more skilled at this stage of his career as Kyle Palmieri? No. But
who do you think is better? And I just want the plain answer. Do you think Nick Foligno is more valuable to teams as a whole, right? We're talking about the trade market. Do you think he is more valuable to teams out there as a whole in the NHL, or is Kyle Palmieri more valuable, right? That's what we're talking about. We have to evaluate the trade to give the trade a grade. We have to evaluate what they gave up for what his trade market value was.
I think that for what this team needs, that Kyle Palmieri was a better trade than Nick Foligno would have been. Because we need goal scoring. That's what we need.
Okay. I'm glad you said that, but I'm just asking you, do you think Kyle Palmieri is more highly regarded at this stage in his career than Nick Foligno? It's a pretty simple question.
Well, yes, at this stage of his career, probably Palmieri.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. So we got Kyle Palmieri as well as Travis for a first and a fourth, and the other team, Toronto, gives up a first and 2/4, or a first and a fourth just for Nick Foligno.
Well,
again,
no,
I would take every single day. Hold on, stop. Every single day of the week, I'd take Kyle Palmieri over Nick Foligno at this point in time in his career. We did not need another 34-year-old guy who no longer has a scoring touch, who's a big body, who's just one of those power forward type players. You've said it a million times. We don't need any more of that. We need a guy who's smaller, who can score, who has the ability to shoot the puck. That's what Kyle Palmieri is. That's why I'm sticking with a B. I think we got better value definitely than what Toronto got. And I'm going to tell you, as you see more trades happen on the trade deadline, you will see that we got good value for Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac. I'm telling you.
Well, I don't see how you can say that. I mean, if we would have got him for a second-round pick, maybe. But if you're giving him a first-round pick for a rental, you're not getting optimal value. You're not. I'm sorry. Because here's the thing. Kyle Palmieri isn't Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky or Mike Bossy. He's Kyle freaking Palmieri. Okay? Stop. And here's the thing. You cannot minimize what Toronto did, because Toronto needed a Nick Foligno type. That's what they needed. Did they overpay? I feel they did. They gave up a first-round pick. But they could absorb that better than we can, because they have a really good farm system, which we do not at this point.
I understand that point, but here it is again. You just said Kyle Palmieri is not a Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky. Grumpy, Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux are going for a lot more than a first-round pick in today's day game in the NHL. And even back then, if you got traded at the trade deadline, it would be much more expensive than a first-round pick. Come on, don't build a straw man on me. All I'm saying is this. You're going to see what we got value-wise and how important they are to the team. You are going to see that a lot of teams are going to overpay. Every single year at the NHL trade deadline, every single team has to overpay to what you think the value is. And what I'm saying is here, we were proactive. We jumped on it earlier than other teams, which is why I think you're going to see a lot of teams paying more for the value they get than we had to pay for Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, which makes the trade, in my opinion, a good deal. Even though it's not optimally the player you wanted, I'm just saying the value we're going to get is going to make it a good deal for us.
I'll wait until I see what Buffalo gets for Taylor Hall, because that tells me right there he's a goal scorer. What we needed was a goal scorer. If he goes for anything less than a first, then we did not win the Kyle Palmieri trade, because Taylor Hall is a better player than Kyle Palmieri, period. If he goes for a second or 2 seconds, which I'd be willing to give up for him, as opposed to a first, I think then it wasn't such a great deal.
Okay,
but I'll wait till we see what we get. What Hall next?
Talk about a goal scorer, right? I want to track my statement there. I said he was a multiple 30-goal scorer. He's only had one season, but he's a multiple 20-goal-a-year type scorer. This is my point. If you think Taylor Hall is going for a second-round pick, you are absolutely out of your mind, Grump. Out of your mind. There's no way Taylor Hall is only going to go for a second-round pick. Well, and I guess I'm going to have to just say, I'll have to wait until Wednesday and say, Grump, as I told you, the amount we gave up for the value we got was good. And I just will have to use, I guess, this case of more and more teams overpaying for less valuable or equal valuable players to make my case, I guess. I'm just going to have to use those. But I guess you're not believing right now, which is fine. I will let the time tell, because it will.
Well, that's all I want to do. I want to just see, if you say, well, you thought it was a great deal for the Islanders. I think it was an okay deal, but I'm interested to see what Taylor Hall gets. because if Taylor Hall goes, from what I'm hearing, the longer it goes, the less they're going to get in return. I remember that happened with us when we wanted to trade Vanek, right? We wound up having to settle for a second-round draft pick in Sebastian Coe because we waited too long to trade him. The value goes down at the end, not up.
Think about this, right? We got a second-round pick in Sebastian Coe for Thomas Vanek. Okay?
Right.
This is an ex-NHL MVP Taylor Hall we're talking about here. It's not Thomas Vanek. To think that he's going to get anything less than a first-round pick, I think is laughable.
So then we have no shot to get him then. I would say we have no shot to get him.
I'm telling you. I don't know. That's why it shocks me that, the rumors are still swirling around. I am not in favor of trading for Taylor Hall at this point for the Islanders. I'm not. But I do find it interesting that a lot of people are saying they're kicking the tires. I don't know how much validity I put into this, as I said earlier, but it's not something I want the Islanders to pursue. I mean, that's all I can say about it, Grum.
Well, that's fine. I mean, listen, I'm going to wait. It's hard for me to judge the value that we gave up for what we got until you see the whole landscape of all teams. That's all I'm saying. Then you know if you overpaid or not. That's all I'm saying.
I just had to grill you a little bit on a complete flip-flop, but now I know that you went through this. What is it? You said the 6 or the 5 stages of grief? What are they?
5.
The 5 stages of grief, Grum. Oh, goodness gracious. I like how you put it analogy-wise. But
I will say that it did address the 2 holes in our lineup. It did. Will it be worth it? We'll find out.
Well, now you're going to have a consistent player, a consistent left winger on your third line, which we haven't had at all so far this season. And then you replaced the gaping hole that Andersley left. Yes, so it addressed the need definitely that we had.
Well, if Palmieri doesn't play with Barzal, we still haven't replaced Andersley.
Okay. Again, as I told you, we're 3 games in. I'm not going to go ahead and peg down that these lineups that we saw tonight are the exact lineups we're going to be rolling out, 10 games from now or when the postseason starts. I'm going to ask you, have the same exact courtesy of let's wait and see as I'm giving you here with the trade deadline.
See,
anyway.
I just go with what Barry Trotz says, that line, because you wouldn't consider Kyle Palmieri a heavy player, okay? So he says, the Matt Barzal line, they need a heavy player on that line. Otherwise, they're really easy to defend. That tells me that he really doesn't want to put Kyle Palmieri there. Why do you think he puts Lee, Komarov, and Zajac up there? Because that's his style. He feels they're too easy to defend, where I think absolutely the opposite. I think skill outweighs any of that. So that's just a philosophical difference that I have with Barry. That's all.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So I guess from now on, you're trying to tell me we don't want to do podcasts on Sunday because you seem even less agreeable than usual on Sundays, is what you're telling me right now, Grump. That's the feeling I'm getting from you right now.
No.
I'm giving you a hard time. But I did have a few additional questions for you. Do you think the Islanders are going to make an additional follow-up move before the trade deadline's over? Remember, they did have the Devils keep half and retain half of the cap there from Palmieri and Zajac, so they do have a little bit of wiggle room. Do you think the Islanders will do anything here before the NHL trade deadline, or is that it?
You know what? Maybe a depth defenseman, maybe. That's about it. But again, I just don't think we have a whole lot of trade. I don't know. If anything, a depth defenseman. I don't see us being in for Taylor Hall. I just don't. I don't think we have the capital to trade for him now.
I don't want to trade for Taylor Hall either. I was just wondering if you saw anybody else in the picture, right? Because everybody's throwing names out there. Oh, the Islanders should go after Sammy Vatanen, right? Because Sammy Vatanen was waived today, free up and available. I'm not sure if anybody's claimed him here. I know that was just like before the game. There were talks about that. I feel like if we were interested in Sammy Vatanen, we would have tried to include him there in a trade in some capacity.
Well, but he's waived, so you can just pick him up if you want.
I know. I'm just saying, I feel like if the Islanders really wanted to go at a guy like Sammy Vatanen, they would have included him in the trade if they thought he had value. I don't know. It's one of those things. I'm seeing a lot of people throwing around the name, oh, why don't we pursue Sammy Vatanen? I'm just saying, if the Islanders really wanted to pursue him, they would have thrown him in the trade in some capacity so he didn't have to go to waivers first.
Well, I don't know if we need him, though. I don't really think we need anybody else. I just don't. Do I think we'll, if anything, like I said, Vatanen we could get for free if they really wanted him. But if you're going to make a trade, it's going to be for some other depth defenseman.
Okay. Well, I'm saying Sammy Vatanen would have been a depth defenseman, so that's what I was asking.
And what you can need to trade for him? He's just a depth. He's just a guy on waivers, so you can pick him up if you want. It's just like it's so laughable. Oh well, right? We sat down Wallstrom a couple games, because they didn't have to clear waivers on him. Well, you know what? No one's going to be picking up guys on waivers. Leo Conwell's been on waivers all year. We could have put anybody on waivers who makes big money. Nobody's picking up those players. Nobody.
It's an interesting point. I will tell you one thing. I wouldn't have tested it, though. That being said, because you don't want to lose a guy, like even if you felt like a guy was having a poor performance, not saying there was, even if you felt like somebody was having a poor performance at this time period, you don't want to go ahead and put them on waivers and leave them there exposed. That being said, Grump.
Can I just say one thing? Can I just say one thing about Palmieri's goal today?
Sure.
Do you want to know how that goal was set up and what specifically happened to set that goal up? Josh Bailey actually taking a shot. He advanced the puck and he took a shot. Everyone was in a panic because they couldn't believe he took a shot. And then it kicks out and Palmieri has the wide open net. It's because Bailey actually took a shot. And kudos to Josh Bailey for actually taking a shot on the power play. Thank you, Josh. But see, that's what happens. When you're not so predictable, good things can happen.
Throw him a parade.
He's been absolutely abysmal since the last time we talked. He's been horrible. Horrible. Okay. Why not put him on waivers? Who'd pick him up?
Okay, gotcha. We're going to get a full pause from you here, Grump, as I get a chance to speak, okay? That being said, yeah, Josh Bailey has not played well. He did take a shot, and I think that's a good point. Now time to throw Josh Bailey a parade, right?
Well, I'm sure you're going to see it.
How many guys are we going to see coming out there? I did like the fact that he did put the puck on net, though.
Yes.
That being said, though, Grump, since the last podcast, we have been 2-1, one win in shootout, another one in overtime, and then the loss to the Rangers. The Islanders need to be shooting, obviously, to win the division. Home ice advantage is hugely important. The Islanders are the best team on home ice so far this season. I'm not sure if we're going to make any more moves. I just would be shocked if we didn't, just solely because we had the Devils retain cap. You had to think that they have something in mind before the trade deadline. You have to think it. Otherwise, why would they have them retain any cap? Maybe in case like an unbelievable deal walked their way. I'm not sure. I have to think that they're planning on doing something, though.
Well, if you could get somebody else to pick up the money, why not? I mean, that's why they got a first, right? Because they absorbed cash. That's why they were able to get that first round draft pick, because they had to absorb some of the cash, and that was part of the deal. If you want our first round draft pick, you're going to have to absorb some of that cap. I mean, that's what the whole thing was about. Because it's certainly not on skill level. I mean, it just isn't.
Oh, my God. You keep doing this. How many more times do we have to go over this? Every single year, teams give up a boatload of first-round picks at the trade deadline. It just happens.
It doesn't work out most times.
It only works out for one team every single year, no matter what. Only one team wins the Stanley Cup. We've gone over this.
Yeah, well, when you're trading for something specific, I'm not saying goal scorer. Like Tampa last year, they went after a couple of grit guys, overpaid with a first-round pick. Why could they afford to do that? Because they're a young team that's absolutely loaded in the minors. They're not loaded in the minors. Their NHL roster is loaded. They have nobody in the pipeline like that. Their NHL roster is loaded, not the minors, not AHL. I disagree. I think their minor league system is pretty good.
What? I mean, the reason they could do that is because they've got guys like Kucherov, Braydon Point, Steven Stamkos, Victor Hedman, guys like Sergachev, guys like Vasilevsky, those young core, and that core nucleus is strong. Okay, that's why they can do that. It's not because they've got a really great. But you name one player down there in their AHL affiliate? I can't. Again, I don't watch the Tampa Bay Lightning like that. But to say they're strong, I mean, can you name anybody on that AHL affiliate?
No.
Okay, so
but I know they're not ranked as poorly as their offensive prospects as we are. That's
for certain. We're one of the worst. The reason they can do that though is because they have unbelievable talent on their current roster. They're in a win now mode because they have an unbelievable team. And as you said before, they are the best team in the NHL.
That's true.
They have been now for 2 years or 2 or 3 years now. I mean, even though technically last year Boston was, you'd find you'd find a real hard argument to say that, yeah, Tampa is not one of the best teams in the league.
They've been the best team in the league for the last 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Best talent. They had to learn how to win, and they needed a couple of sandpaper guys. And that's why I think the Toronto deal for Foligno works for them, because they have a lot of talent on that team, but I don't think they really know how to win, and I don't think they have enough sandpaper in their game, and that's why I feel it was a good trade for them. And that's why, I mean, the Marlies are loaded. The Marlies are loaded, okay? But when you have a Foligno come in there, you don't need – how much more talent in the minors do you need when you already got a bunch of young guys playing up there? I just think for Toronto, I like their deal for what they needed. That's all.
You say the Marlies are loaded. Again, I couldn't even name one player on the AHL affiliate. I don't follow that. Grump, could you name any player on the Toronto Marlies right now that's really good player?
All I know is they're a really good AHL team, and they have been for a number of years.
Okay. Oh, I don't make statements like that unless I can back it up, Grump. But, I mean, are you ready to open up the lines, grumpy old man?
Sure, why not? And I predict this will be a cluster. Go, TJ.
A cluster. Well, Grump also wanted to let us know. He said – remind everybody that I'm sure the line's going to be busy because there are going to be people calling in. That also being said here, grumpy old man, remember, it would be peaceful. Everybody be respectful. And let's go ahead and go. We're going to go ahead and show here the number where people could start calling in, grumpy old man. So as soon as it starts ringing here, as soon as we start seeing the dials here coming through, we'll make sure we'll be able to connect where you can ask any type of question you have for myself or the grumpy old man, any comments you have there as well. I know usually we roll through the comments there on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. We definitely can do that as well, but we're going to be taking calls, the new feature here. Give me a little time. We might struggle a little. I might struggle a little bit with it here at the beginning, but I expected there to be a fun new additive into our feature, grumpy old man. What is the likelihood we get? What's going on, Grump?
Nothing. I have a member of my family just came in the door, and I wanted to keep it quiet. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I'm fine with that. Why don't we go through some comments until someone makes a call?
For certain, grumpy old man. Frank K says here that game got away from us there, as well as the team looked old. Zajac on the top line, epic fail. Sorokin was good again. Both goals, he got hung out to dry.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same story. You see teams that are aggressive on the forecheck and have speed give us a lot of problems. I thought the fourth line was terrible today. They get exposed with teams where we used to dominate on the forecheck with that fourth line. We don't anymore. And they can be a liability in the offensive zone with teams that are aggressive in the forecheck. And we saw that again today. I thought Matt Martin today, right? Let me just ask you a question. If Matt Barzal had taken those two tripping penalties that Matt Martin did today, you think there'd be an uproar? I think there would have been.
For certain, you'd see people complain. But, I mean, that's one of those things, right? That the fan base complains about everything and anything that they feed them. For a lot of people.
But you don't.
You want the answer? You want the answer? I'll give it to you. A lot of times people go ahead and just follow exactly what the media says there. And when they pump out the stories of what Butch is saying and the reverberate, hey, he's taking way too many penalties, they just go ahead and echo that. Yeah, but, you're not seeing a lot of those about Matt Martin because you never will. You never see Perry Trotz ever come out to talk about Matt Martin taking uncharacteristically undisciplined penalties.
It does drive me crazy when Butch tries to make excuses for the older players when they do selfish penalties in the offensive zone or lazy penalties. He'll try to make an excuse always, without fail. He tries to make an excuse, but let it be Matt Barzal or one of the young guys. Man, oh man, he's all over them all the time. And for me, it's just frustrating. I do have a question. How do you think Noah Dobson's been since he came back from COVID?
I don't think he picked up exactly where he left off. I think he's played well, but I just don't think he's been. I mean, like when he left due to COVID, I thought he was playing unbelievably well. I really did think that. Since he's come back here, I'm not so sure. I mean, like he's been falling around a little bit. I think he's still doing a good job on the defensive side of the puck, but I'm not seeing that same exact swagger in that attack on the offensive side of the puck like we did. And I'm not seeing the confidence that we did before he did get that signal. We've got a first call here. Give me 1 second here, Grump.
Nicole Moiso.
To accept, press 1.
Hey, you're
to
live
send
here with
voicemail,
TJ and the
press
Grumpy
2.
Old Man at the Islanders Never Say Die podcast.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hey, you're live here with TJ and the Grumpy Old Man at the Islanders Never Say Die podcast.
Oh, man. Did it work? Are we in?
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
TJ, can you hear him?
No, I cannot.
I can hear him.
Oh,
Okay,
interesting. I'm talking. Is it working?
Having
Hello?
technical difficulties already.
It's working. See if you can actually speak into the phone.
Hello?
I can hear him. He's saying hello.
Hello?
Okay, good, Grump. I'm gonna need you to communicate until I'm able to get the issue sorted here on my side. Okay.
Okay. There you go. See my prediction that would be
TJ, if you guys can hear me.
thumbs up. We can hear him. Thumbs up. We can hear him.
Uh-oh. The human cliffhanger does it again. Oh, no.
That's right. The human cliffhanger does it again. I will agree with that. I had a feeling this would be a little bit shaky for the first time. I really did. So maybe TJ needs to put his headset back on, headphones back on. I don't know.
Can't tell if it's working or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I can hear him. I can hear him now. I just need to mess with the volume a little bit here on his side.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. Maybe you have to make me a little bit louder.
I should be able to hear him now.
I hear him. Well, we don't want to have too much dead air. So.
I hear him. You're through. You're through. We can hear you now. You should
All
be
right.
able to see him.
Is it working?
Yes. Yes, it is. Now it's working here. We got it up and going.
Awesome. Okay, I can't hear Grumpy at all, but I can hear you, TJ.
Okay, you can't hear. Yeah, Grumpy's going to have to use headphones from here on out. I keep telling him that, but okay, I gotcha. So who do we have with us here live today?
It's Mike.
It's Mike. Mike, what type of question, what type of comments you have for us here today, Mike?
So, TJ, I wanted to have a quick talk to Grumpy about Josh, but obviously Josh Hosang, but I don't think Grumpy's going to be able to talk to me, so I'm going to have to relay through you.
Okay, Grumpy's got questions about Josh Hosang, Grumpy old man.
That's fine. He can ask you the question, and I'll relay the answer to you.
Unfortunately, I can't hear Grump. I just wanted to let Grump know, and that everyone who listens, that in the last stint he had with the Islanders, he had the lowest expected goals against per 60, and just in stats, he had the lowest goals against basically per 60. So if you take out the analytics and just go to the stats, he was basically the best defensive forward for the Islanders in that last stint. And I honestly think he had a lot of talent, and I just want to hear what he has to say about it.
Grump, what do you have to say about it here, buddy?
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement on that. I feel that without a doubt, he should have been given a shot here. He was never going to get a shot here. They had a bias against him when this new regime came in. They listened to the previous regime, and they never gave the kid a shot. And I think it's affected him mentally. And I felt he would have made a nice line mate for Brock Nelson, but we'll never know because he'll never play for us.
I can hear Grumpy now, too, and that's exactly my thoughts, too. It's just everyone ripped him for being terrible away from the puck. But if you look at I know you don't like analytics, but if you just look at the stats, he came into the system, did everything that Barry wanted, and they still sent him down because he didn't produce. But if you want him to play defense with Leo Komarov, he's not gonna have much offense. That was my point, really.
Yeah, like I said, I had no problem with it. I never thought he was a defensive liability when he played up with the big team. I never did. They didn't want to play him. I mean, when their excuse was when it first came in, we're going to send him down because he has things to work on his game. We didn't see those things, but we're going to send him down anyway to work on those things. It's GM speak. He never had a shot. Why they keep on re-signing him is beyond my comprehension, honestly. I mean, trade him. If you don't want,
they should have just let him go.
Yeah.
Well, apparently
it's a real shame because he had a lot of talent, Grump, and I really think on a team that has almost next to no talent outside of Barzell and watching Travis Zajac infuriating on the left wing, basically Leo Komarov but 2 feet taller. It's rough, and they need to get him a talented winger because I don't think we're going to win if we don't have that. It's our scoring line, like you said, and without Barzell, they're not scoring.
That's right. It's Matty and the Jags. That's the way this team is. Anytime we have they punish people who want to play offense. That's what I feel. Punish them.
I got one more for you, Grump, too. TJ kind of looks like Adam Pellick. I said it in the chat, but they have the same hair.
He's got a little bit more hair than Adam Pellick. I'm going to give him that.
I've seen Adam Pellick in person. Man, oh man, now come on, throw a little respect on it there.
Yeah, I think you're a little bit taller, TJ.
Yeah, a little bit taller. Yeah, apparently I was having my mic levels too low. I apologize, everybody, but hopefully the mic levels will work a little better now.
I just and last for Grumpy, how do you feel about Zajac being in the 4-on-4 and then being put in the 3-on-3 when we traded for Palmieri, and yet we're putting a guy who's like Leo, he can't keep up. He's in a 3-on-3 situation. I mean, it's great they scored off of it, but that was all Barzell and Kulak, really.
Exactly. I mean, and Barzell set him up just prior to that, right in the slot, and he couldn't do the job. It just tells you Barry wants a certain type of player on the ice at all time, some defensive grinder type who we don't care if we score as long as we don't get scored on. That's what I feel that they care about. To me, it's boring.
I don't know, Grump, if he got the Bailey assist on that one, but I thought he might have, just being there.
I don't think they might have given it to him. I don't know. But Bailey did have a secondary assist today, but it was actually earned because he did take a shot on that power play, which I was stunned by, honestly. And I'm sure the Rangers were
pretty miserable.
Well, thank you.
He's been miserable, Mike. And I expect a lot more from him. I don't know what's up with Bailey lately.
He sucks. That's what's up with him. He's a garbage player, and he always has been, and it's all he'll ever be. Why not put him on waivers? Let's see if
that's an exaggeration.
Oh goodness,
he's not a garbage player, Grump. He doesn't give a lot up on the ice. He just doesn't do much either.
There you go.
That's the problem.
He doesn't show up. All he does is
need a top 6 player who's going to produce. That's really the issue there.
I've always said that he'd make a good third line player, and I think he would make a good third line.
Perfect third line winger on any team. Perfect.
That's right.
Goodness.
That's right, and that's what I've always said about him.
Thanks, Mike. I'm glad the first caller here is Mike M, and I apologize there. I'm sure everybody got some good gold here as I was bouncing back and forth with the inability to operate the machinery. I thought I had it down pat when we did our trial run, but apparently I had misthought. Well, thanks, Mike. I do appreciate the call in here. First call in on the Outers Never Say Die podcast. Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it, guys. Love you, Grump.
Thank you. Love you too.
The first caller, grumpy old man. And just like you said, you knew something was going to go wrong. Sure enough, it did.
Well, here's the thing, TJ. I'm not blaming you for that. It's the first time doing it. I mean, it's going to happen the first time you try something. It just is.
I'm just glad everybody let me know that my mic levels are way, way, way too low because I know we got the new mic. We got everything up and running here new. I will say this, though, grumpy old man. We talk about Josh Ho-Sang. Man, oh, man, I'm ready just to close the book on that guy. Oh, I'm ready to close the book on Josh Ho-Sang. Like one of those Band-Aids and just rip it right off. No more Josh Ho-Sang.
I just feel like it's what could have been. That's what I feel about him. They never gave him a shot, so we'll never know. I mean, and his career is going to wind up being nothing. I mean, they've effectively, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but the kid had talent, and I just feel like he was behind the 8 ball right from the beginning, from when him sleeping in too late, missing the first practice, and that was that.
Louis C says here, grumpy old man, you're off base. We have older players, but we are not old.
But one of the oldest teams in the league, one of the bottom 3 or 4 oldest teams in the league. That's an old team.
We are an older team, but we talk about the base. I think the base is relatively young.
I don't know.
I do think the base going forward can be relatively young.
It depends on what you
hear from Alexander. Anybody watching WrestleMania? Grumpy, you would ask me yesterday. I don't watch too much wrestling anymore, but I thought WrestleMania was on yesterday. I'm going to sound real foolish. Is it on today or is it yesterday?
2 nights. The last couple of years they've made it. I don't know if it was 2 or 3 years. They've made it 2-night affairs. So
that's my problem.
I don't know, but wrestling is as good as it used to be. I will say that.
Then the Wicked 50 Cal on a YouTube comment says Blake Coleman is a sandpaper guy that can score. Foligno, not the offensive player that Coleman is.
True. Agreed. But Blake Coleman, but I don't think Blake Coleman, maybe on a different team, he's more of a goal scorer. Not on Tampa, he's not. He's got to play his role. And I'll tell you what, he was one of those guys that put them over the top. And, good for them. They went out finally and they went and got one. That's what everybody was saying about Tampa for years. They need a little bit of sandpaper. Finally, they went out and did it, and it got him a Stanley Cup.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely here. Frank DaCosta here. Frank, longtime listener, says, TJ, you forgot that grumpy, a whole bunch of expletives there, didn't lose 1 week in fantasy hockey. He's never wrong, ever. Laughing my ass off.
That's true, Frank. Thank you. And by the way, I'm rolling in fantasy baseball this week too. Thanks for playing.
Oh, look at you, fantasy guy. That's right. I forgot we did the fantasy hockey there. Not how many years ago was that, Grump? We did that as like a nice little thing there to see, like, hey, test your wits against the grumpy old man fantasy hockey. I forgot we did that.
Yeah, 2 years ago, undefeated.
Oh, goodness gracious. Here we go. John P says, according to the roster research, the Islanders are the 19th oldest team in the NHL at 29.3 years old average, Grumpy.
Is that before the or after? It depends on. I'm interested.
I'm not sure how things have changed, but that's how things look at the moment.
Yeah, that's still pretty old.
Oh, goodness gracious here. Matthew C saying, not without a great coach and a defense. We've got Barzal, Oliver Wahlstrom, Bavillier, etc., Sorokin. I mean, like, again, the big pieces, the young pieces there. We have a good coach. We've got some young pieces around at Grump.
Yeah, but we don't have anybody in the pipeline. That's my issue. It's not like we have anybody who's going to be moving up. All of our younger players have all graduated to the pros now, offensively, all of them.
And Brian P saying here, Lou and Barry aren't worried about the future. Lou's 100 years old, and Barry doesn't want a young team. They have the love for the vets, and we know that.
That's true. You're preaching to the choir there, because that's 100% accurate.
Oh, goodness.
It should be Lou's responsibility not to deal away. I mean, I know why he's doing it. I understand why he's doing it. I just don't believe in it. I'd rather have a team that's going to be good 5 years from now, because once you fall off the cliff, you're going to fall off hard. It's a long way down. It's a long way down.
As you said on last podcast, I tried to grab the clip, but I didn't have enough time. But you said the fall from grace is going to be long and hard. I laughed my ass off. We could almost put like some sinister music behind it and make that like a little TV ad. Oh, goodness gracious. Matthew C. here chiming in saying, I hope Lou's son is not the next general manager.
Matthew, you're not the only one. I'll tell you that much. I hope that wasn't part of the deal to sign him. To say, hey, he's your next GM. Look at the great job he's done in Bridgeport. Fantastic.
Bridgeport, many winning teams here. And Will S. saying, Lou's got 2 years left. We're going for it. The next general manager has to deal with the fallout.
You want to try to avoid that. We've been bad for so long. I mean, most of this group of players were still there when Capilano and Waite were the coaches. I mean, and Snow was the GM. Not a whole lot of the core pieces have changed. We've added a couple of young guys, but that's it. I mean, they weren't good enough back then. I don't feel they're good enough now. I certainly hope we are, but I don't know.
We got a comment here from REC here, another YouTube comment saying here, Komarov is done. Grumpy old man, do not have an aneurysm. Grump, you look like you're going to have an aneurysm sometime. I tell you this all the time. Or you're going to give me an aneurysm. But he's saying Komarov's done. Leo's done. No need to get upset about it.
He'll be back in the lineup. He's going to be back in the lineup. Don't worry about that. Fret you not. He's going to be back in the lineup soon enough. And I make sure I take my 81 milligram aspirin every day. So to keep my blood thin.
Hold on. I swear I saw a study, and I'm no doctor, and I know 2 minutes of pessimisticking, I think, is a doctor. I've got to ask Paige, too. We got another call in here real quick. Grumpy old man. Let me go ahead and patch this in for us, though.
Phil.
Hey, you're live. Hey, you're live with TJ and the Grumpy Old Man. How are you doing?
It's good. It's your good buddy, Phil.
Hey, Phil. It's Phil Fax there. How are you doing, Phil?
Doing well. Glad to have this privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you had a few things you talked. Phil Fax there, Twitter enthusiast there. What you got for us today, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on on what you guys are currently talking about right now with dealing away picks in an effort to win the cup now. And I really think that it just comes down to window with the current players that they have on the roster. If you're going to wait to stack the pipeline with more first round picks, and first of all, if we're going to get on Lou for drafting poorly, then that begs the question as to why we even want him to have first picks.
And that's more of a joke for Grumpy because I know he hasn't been thrilled with some of the draft picks. Who was, gifted the strategy to draft Wallstrom and Dobson by the Snow team. But leaving that aside, because you want to have as many picks as possible, considering that their best players in their top 6, minus Barzal, of course, are Lee, who unfortunately is injured, Nelson, Eberle, and then Bailey, who, I think I'm with Grumpy over here. I don't think he's a top 6 player anymore. But, if you hold on too long and you hope that you're going to stock the pipeline for the next 3-4 years, at this point, considering where most of those guys' contracts are, where will that leave us exactly? That's my question.
Right. And see, that's my whole issue. I would have blown it up as soon as it started. As soon as they came in, I thought you could get they were worried. They wanted the Islander fans. They wanted to put a winner out there right away because the Islander fans have been long suffering. I feel with Lou Lamoriello's reputation coming in and Barry Trotz's reputation as a coach, that they could have blown the whole thing up and started over. Trade the older guys now, but at that time, you're looking, Lee was 28 years old, Nelson was 27. You could have moved those guys, maybe got some more first-round picks or got some younger, cheaper talent, and then you could have built from the bottom up. That's what I would have done because now I never felt we were good enough back then. They did when they came in. I remember when they came in, they thought, well, we win with this team. And I just don't think that that's the case. I mean, I think even they realize that now. I do understand why that they're going all in now. I do understand because everybody's old and there's really nothing else you can do. I'm just saying that you got to watch out when you start. The lifeblood of any team is the draft. And I know he hasn't drafted well, drafting guys like Casper and Lundqvist, even though he was a 3rd rounder. But you can't. I just don't think you can be real successful and continually give up 1st-round picks in the long run. You can do that when you're a team like Pittsburgh, when you got Crosby and Malkin, and you're contending every year, and you have a realistic shot at winning. But I just don't think that we do. I just don't think we're good enough offensively.
I'll put it this way. They had a window of opportunity that would have arisen about 2 years ago, the first year that Trotz was in charge with. At that point, they had Eberle, Lee, and Nelson, who would have been headed into USA. What ended up happening was, to the surprise of everyone, and probably to Lou himself, is that the team that lost Tavares ended up being firmly planted in a playoff position come trade deadline. And they kind of went with neutral, which was not to do anything. They didn't sell anyone. They didn't add anyone, which, again, questionable as to whether or not that was a mistake. I still don't think another player would have gotten them past Carolina, considering how they got their asses handed to them there. But at that point, considering they had gone for it already, once you're faced with Nelson, Eberle, and Lee at UFA that summer, if you look back at the deals and all the contracts that were signed, those were 3 of the better contracts that were given out. Nelson was probably the best center contract that was done that summer, compared to Shane, compared to Kevin Hayes, compared to Joe Pavelski. I think that was head and shoulders the best center deal that was done that summer. I think Eberle at 5.5 is a really good deal, although I don't think he's a top-line winger, but he's still a pretty good top 6 winger. And Lee, unfortunately, he's banged up now, and if they had him right now, that line was certainly a tough line to deal with for any team. I mean, Lee had 12 goals in 28 games and was playing the best hockey of his career. I think they're going to get another window of opportunity in about 2-3 years from now, assuming the wheels fall off, though, because then you're going to have Eberle, Bailey, Nelson getting toward the end of his deal. So if in 2 to 3 years from now they're not a good team, they're going to have an opportunity to go for the rebuild at that point. So you have a 2 to 3 year window right here where you hope to be able to remain competitive. I do think Lou has improved the team pretty dramatically if you look at it now, the way the roster is today versus the way it was entering last year. Entering last year, they didn't have Wallstrom, they didn't have Palmieri, and they didn't have Pajot. They only got Pajot late in the season. So I think he's done things to put them in a position to probably be the team to beat in the East. The question then becomes, once they get to the conference finals, do they have enough to get them through? And it's hockey. It's at that point, it just becomes luck. Nelson buries a short-handed opportunity in Game 6, and we're going to Game 7. So a lot of things could happen, but I honestly do think with the 3 new players that have been plugged into the lineup now, with those, and Zajak's not a fit on the top line, and they need to reorient things. But I think they've put themselves in as good a position possible for the next 3 to 5 years that this is the team. This is going to be their best shot, I think, at making the cup run.
You just have to remember.
I want to jump in here real quick. You say 3 to 5 years. I think this window is much more finite than that. And like you look at performance wise, when players come into the scene, when they turn 30 years old, most times it is a stumble and it is a downward fall. I mean, like you don't see many players. I mean, how long realistically do you think a guy like Anders Lee can produce at the certain level he's at now? You say he's playing the best hockey he's ever played at. A guy who's not a skilled skater. A guy, how long realistically do you think a guy like that can continue to play? I mean, like Eberle, if you could skate, you can kind of last a little longer. But again, you look at some of these contracts that are tied. I mean, like Anders Lee's not a guy I feel like long term has a chance here to be successful. I mean, Josh Bailey is another guy too. I mean, like how long do you think these guys that are entering their 30-year-old range are going to be successful? And when they do turn 32, 33, 34 years old, I mean, like they're toxic assets at that point. Good luck moving that contract off your roster.
Yeah, I'm just going to say that.
I mean, we saw Nick Foligno get moved today. So I think that, a 33, 34-year-old Bailey could probably get moved for a second at some point because maybe someone will want that leadership. I think in Eberle, if you're talking about, it really just depends on what the market fundamentals are at that point. But I agree with you. Lee, the unfortunate thing is it's an ACL injury. And with an injury to the legs for a hockey player, I mean, you never know how they're going to rebound. He was playing fantastic hockey. Player like Eberle, a player like Nelson, I think they could probably hold up better. Pajot's 28. I'd expect to get 3 out of the next 6 years, in addition to this year. Should be good years. If you get 4 good years out of UFA contract, out of 6 or out of 7, that's a really good deal because you don't expect a UFA deal. I mean, I don't think we'll expect the Tavares deal to take them to the point where he's going to be 36 years old and still producing at a high rate. It's a UFA deal. You know what you're buying. You're essentially buying years of contention. But I think if they would have tore it down at that point and, in a playoff spot, it would have sent a really bad message to a fan base when they had just gotten approvals on building Belmont at that point to be in a playoff position and then sell off Lee, Eberle, and Nelson all at that trade deadline when you're firmly in a playoff position. And then after not having done that, to just not bring them back at all and not get any assets. I mean, what choice were they really faced with at that?
Yeah, I'm just going to say this. Hockey players don't age like wine. They age like vinegar. And that's what you're going to see from our guys as well. I don't think that our window is 3 to 5 years. I'm thinking maybe 2 tops because you're going to see the guys fall off the cliff. Brock Nelson's contract was good. He's going to be 34 when it's done. You got Eberle, who's going to be 35 when his 34, 35 when his done, and Anders Lee is going to be 36. Those guys, how many guys really are that good when they're at that age?
And you talk about, right, how Nick Foligno was moved for a first-round pick. The only reason Nick Foligno was moved for a first-round pick is because his contract expires and he's a rental. So you're trying to tell me we're going to have to endure the pain of those older players and forwards stuck on our roster and lineup until they come into that last year of their contract until we can go ahead and shell them out. I don't like that long term. Again, like Grump and I have had this discussion plenty of times. I don't believe we needed a full rebuild, a revamp for sure. The only thing I really didn't like was the league contract. But I mean, we're in it to win it now, so it's a moot point.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just the way. I'm just going to say that when I'm never a fan of signing guys who are in their 30s to long-term deals. That's why you're seeing the trend throughout the league now is to sign your restricted free agents at young ages and buy out years of free agency. And that's, to me, that's what I would do. I would sign a guy like Barzal. I would love to sign him to an 8-year deal this offseason till he gets to be 32. Or a guy like Wallstrom, the young guys, lock them up long term as opposed to the older veterans. I just don't think, I don't want to pay for past performance. I want to pay for future performance. And that's just
right. Well, I mean, they're not going to be able to lock Barzal and Wallstrom up until the summer after next when their contracts expire, just because of league rules surrounding contract extensions and when you could do those. But yeah, I mean, listen, of those 3 contracts that they signed, signing Eberle for 5 years I think he was 29 to take him to 34. I don't think that's a terrible deal considering he doesn't play a real rough and tough style hockey. I think he could be a decent player, a good player next year. hopefully a decent player the year after that, and then the next year if they're a bad team, then you're talking about dangling him as a trade asset. Nelson also, the style of game he plays, I don't know why he would grind down so hard when his deal finishes up at 33. I'm with you on Lee. Lee was a real big gamble, and unfortunately the ACL injury is going to be something that we're going to find out in October as to what the effects of that are going to be, and as to whether or not that deal is going to go sour sooner than we think it is.
I don't think that injury will affect him as much as it might affect somebody else with his skill set. I think he'll be fine when he comes back because his game is not predicated on skating or anything like that. So I think he'll be fine.
What's Lee's skill set predicated around, Grump?
It's not predicated on skating. It's not.
I didn't know if we were going to get a little captain average there, call out there. I didn't know if we were going to get lucky, Grump.
No, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, right? I mean, that's his game isn't predicated on skating. It's him parking himself in front of the net, deflecting pucks. That is his game. That's what he does, and he's pretty good at it. It's the other parts of the game he's not great.
Interesting. Yeah, I hate to cut you guys off, but the Islanders just traded a 7th-round pick for Braydon Coburn, and that's a 2022 7th-round pick for Braydon Coburn. So just wanted to throw that out there for you folks.
There's your depth defenseman, right?
There we go. Phil is breaking the news for us here on the live stream. The
Stanley Cup champion last year with the Lightning.
I'm absolutely fine with that deal.
2022 7th.
There we
Not going to go. Yeah, you can't complain about a 2022 7th. That's
not at all. 7th round pick. Goodbye. How many 7th round picks made it? He's the depth guy. No problem with that at all. Now they won't make another deal. That's it.
There it is. Thank you so much, Phil, for calling in. I do appreciate it. Is there anything
Thanks
else
for having me on. I appreciate it.
Any other last words here before we go ahead and disconnect?
Listen, I think we need to give this lineup a little bit of time. You and I were going at it about whether or not Wahlstrom was going to be a permanent. So I'll just leave you with this. Here are my full thoughts on it. I'll keep it under 2 minutes if I can. I think that what they tried to do essentially without having any practice time for these two guys was to keep them on the same line they played on with the Devils and just adding one element to them, which is Pajot, who is, the ultimate Barry Trotz type player. And the reason why they needed to sit Wahlstrom was because they didn't want to just remake a lineup for a back-to-back where you would be throwing pieces all over the place and remaking 3 lines. I don't necessarily think they're doing anything in particular in terms of sending message or anything with Wahlstrom maybe going a little bit of cold. I'm with you at this point. I don't think it was injury related, but I think the lineup that we saw tonight is probably going to be, barring some crazy Taylor Hall trade or something like that. I truly do believe that this is going to be what it looks like, with the exception of injury or some trade like Taylor Hall out of left field. I think they need to tweak a little bit more. I don't love Zajac on the top line. I would love for them to put Nelson on the top line and have Zajac center a line of maybe Bailey and Wahlstrom and have Pajot with Palmieri and Beauvillier in the middle as the second line, and keeping your, down the right side, you have Eberle, Palmieri, Wahlstrom lines 1, 2, and 3, which is about as dangerous a right side as you'll find in the division, and that could rival a lot of teams in the league with that kind of firepower. But I truly believe at this point, with 3 days to fully practice, not having had these two guys practice up until this point, I think come Boston this week, the back-to-back Thursday, Friday, you're going to see a much different team with these players now fully acclimated, knowing what their roles are on this team. And I think this is what it's going to be going for. So I'll leave you guys with that. But great chat.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for coming on here today. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll just say in response to Phil on that last point, he's right. Barry doesn't like to change a whole lot of things up. So that's why he just does little tweaks. You never see him do full scale changes. He's a creature of habit. He likes to everything in a box, everything the way it has to be.
Got you there, Grump. Well,
100%.
Thank you so much, Phil. I do appreciate you coming on.
Bye.
Grumpy old man, Braydon Coburn.
Yeah.
The New York Times organization.
Like the deal. Absolutely like it. Love it.
I was about to say, 7th round pick, nothing too crazy. And again, the Islanders take on the entire cap hit there from the Ottawa Senators in exchange there for a 2022 7th round pick. The lines are back open and free, grumpy old man. But your initial reaction, good pick by the Islanders. They do add that depth defenseman there. Does give them a little bit more of, again, another one of those veteran types of players where if somebody does go down, or let's say even 2 defensemen go down, you have that steady pipeline there, defenseman you can rely upon there as depth guys.
Yeah. Do you know what his cap hit is?
Yeah, right here. It's 6. Do you not see the screen there? It's 625,000.
Okay. I need a telescope to read that. All right. So you're just going to have to tell me. It's way too small for me. Let me see.
Is that better for you, Grump?
No, I can't read it. That's fine.
Break out the reading glasses.
How much is it?
Was that
How much is it?
625,000?
Yeah. Okay. So that's fine. Has no bearing if we do anything else. I don't think we will. I think he wanted to get that depth defenseman. He got it. So good for him. Maybe he'll win another GM of the Year award now. Who knows?
Gotcha. I'm going to go ahead and call. We had 2 minutes of pessimisticking was calling it. I'm going to try to go ahead and give him a call, Grumpy Old Man. He was waiting.
Take your ring off.
Hello?
Hey, 2 minutes pessimisticking. We are here live on the Islanders Never Say Die podcast with the Grumpy Old Man and TJ.
Hello?
Oh, hey, can you hear us
This
there?
is Lou. This is Lou.
Oh, it's Lou Lamoriello.
It's Lou from the landline.
Oh, it's Lou from the landline.
I love the landline.
Hello.
Grumpy,
Grump.
this is Lou Lamoriello, Grump. Go ahead.
I understand, Lou. Tell me what else you're going to do.
There's a lot of things we're going to do, Grump. A lot of things. But first things first, Grump. Let's be here. Let's talk. Let's talk. You and me.
Let's talk.
First things first. Let's be men here. Let me address you as with your first name. What's your first name?
The grumpy old man.
The Grumpy Old Man.
Okay. Well, I called because I want to make sure that I can answer your questions, Grump.
Oh,
Grump, what questions do you have for Lou Lamoriello? He's going to be able to go ahead and give you whatever answer you have, Grumpy. He's going to be able to go ahead and give that to you.
is there a succession plan for your son to step in as general manager when you retire?
There's plans. There are definitely plans. There's definitely plans.
There's definitely plans. He does look like Lou Lamoriello. He absolutely does. He doesn't give you an answer. What do you like so much about Brent Thompson as the coach of Bridgeport? Do you feel like he's developing the young players?
He develops very well. A lot of good defensemen, Grump. A lot of good defensemen, as you can possibly tell.
Well, since we need offensive players, do you feel you need to have someone else develop the offensive players instead of Brent Thompson?
Yes, we have Oliver Wallstrom. How about that, Grump? How about that guy?
So you feel like
Massachusetts native.
So you feel that Brent Thompson developed him?
Definitely, Grump.
Okay.
Aren't you pleased?
I am pleased. I am pleased with Oliver Wallstrom, without a doubt. I just want to know why you picked Simon Holmstrom when there was so much more talent there, like a Philip Tomasino, a Connor McMichael, or an Alex Valiev.
Simon, you just wait, Grump. You just wait. He'll pan out. He'll definitely pan out.
That's what I am.
Bailey.
But how long do I have to wait?
Do you like Josh Bailey, Grump? Lou's got a question.
No, I don't like Josh Bailey. He's really smart, though.
You like
real smart.
You like Josh Bailey. You'll love Simon.
I've always called Simon Josh 2.0. He likes to hang around the perimeters, and he's real smart. He doesn't do anything, doesn't produce, but he's smart. Future coach. I like to draft guys like that in the first round.
Future coach.
What other questions do you have? I'm here for you. Here for you, Grump.
You know what? I don't want to ask. I don't want to take up too much of your time with those questions, but I do appreciate you letting me ask you.
I'm a busy man, as you can see.
I understand. Thank you so much for calling. Thank you,
Lou Lamoriello. We appreciate the call into the podcast.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Grumpy, we finally got to hear in what you and Lou Lamoriello's conversations kind of sound like. We know he calls in on the landline. This is unique. We've gone ahead and posted it here. Lou now has a different way where he can reach us.
That's true.
So that's good. I'm looking forward to that, Grumpy.
I'll tell you what, the questions that I asked Lou Lamoriello, none of the other media people even would dream of asking him those questions.
Those are the hardest hitting questions that Lou Lamoriello has been asked in his entire tenure as the New York Islanders general manager.
Everything's a softball. Everything they give him is a softball. Everything.
Well, I was going to wonder if you were going to ask him a few questions like, what's your favorite color? Do you like chocolate chip cookies and a warm cup of milk there before you go to bed? I mean, that's what we expect there from the Islanders media cartel, Grump.
That's what I let the cartel do. I let them answer, the what do they call it? Like the little magazine stories.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, the lines are back open here, and we're also getting this in comments here, Grumpy Old Man, that we had. Tom White says here the third line was both offensively talented and defensively talented. They can do it all. Oliver Wahlstrom is the youngest and has two good players along him to help him.
Agreed. 100% agree with Tom there. I feel that's what Oliver Wahlstrom needs. You need to surround good offensive players with like-type players. That's how you get the most out of them. And you're seeing that with Wahlstrom. I thought you saw, and Pajot and he have already gelled, and Palmieri is a good fit with them. It still means we are missing a first-line winger, though.
We got a comment here from Sal P. Usually gives us the Josh Bailey update here for the day. We've got a comment here saying, how about a second in the Golden Cow number 12, Josh Bailey for Taylor Hall? I'm only talking nonsense, nut. It's fun to dream.
I would do that in a second. He addresses your first line weakness. Josh Bailey is, whatever. It's funny. Barry was talking about Wahlstrom and how, when he, he's starting to slow down a little bit, so maybe he needed a little bit of time off. What about how you have Josh Bailey, who's played on 130 straight power plays and has one goal? Why don't you sit him down? Why does he continue to play on the power play? Can you answer me that? I mean, that's a question for my pal Barry. How do you play a guy who scored one goal in 130 power play attempts on the power play? Well, just roll him out all the time.
I always laugh when people say, oh, he's starting to slow down. He's starting to feel it. Again, I will give a guy like Oliver Wahlstrom a little bit of a break when they start to slow down. They're not acclimated there to what it takes to be a professional. Haven't played even though it's not an 82-game season, they haven't played a season at an NHL level in a short capacity like this. That being said, every single player at the end of the year is always feeling the bumps and bruises. Oh my gosh. I couldn't tell you if at the end of the year, there was never a player who wasn't feeling it. And the funny thing is, it used to go around the locker room, and athletic trainers would always say, it's funny, they've had a long time period with the organization I played for. And they said, it's funny when the team does well, the bumps and bruises don't hurt that much. But when the team's really sucking, the bumps and bruises seem to be coming up in much larger multitudes when the team seems to be losing.
Yeah. That whole thing was a charade anyway, why he sat Wahlstrom. It wasn't because of any injury or any of it. They're lying to you. He just likes to stick with the older players. That's what it is. If he could play a team of veterans, he would. That's been his MO since he started coaching. Period.
Another comment here from Tom White says, let's get number 17 off our power play. He does nothing for us out there. We have options other than him. Well, it's fun. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really don't. Long term, Matt Martin should not be the answer here for the Islanders on the power play. I think it would be nice to go ahead and try something else out there. But he has played well in the limited capacity he's been on the power play, I think.
If they just plop him in front of the net in the Anders Lee role, he's fine. He's not a creator, even though he did make a nice pass on a power play for a goal. He's fine doing that. He's, like I said, Anders Lee is nothing special. He can be replaced by Komarov on the first line. 36-year-old Travis Zajac can replace him on the first line. I mean, it's not like the first line is producing just like it was when Anders Lee was in the lineup. And on the power play, he can be replaced by Matt Martin. That's why you don't pay $7 million a year for 7 years to a guy like Anders Lee.
Carlos C says, Uncle Leo back in the lineup, please. Carlos, you're starting a revolution. You're one of the few who want Uncle Leo back in the lineup.
I'm gonna respectfully disagree, Carlos.
Michael D says here, gotta love Grumpy. I don't know these guys coming up from Jersey, but he thinks he should be playing on the first line with Barzal.
Yeah, I mean, their team is one of the worst teams in the league. He played third line in Jersey. He comes to the island and he's a first line player. Explain that to me.
No. You wanted Kyle Palmieri to play on the first line, and when you came over, you're like, I don't know too much about him, and all of a sudden you're like, he needs to be on the first line. That's what he's making a joke about, Grump.
Well, he should be. I mean, that's why you supposedly traded for him, is because he's a first line player. But you don't put him on the first line. You put the guy who's a third line player on your first line, and took the guy who's a first line player in Jersey and put him on the third line. I don't know.
Sal P says, luckily we have 3 days off to practice and try to get the lines organized and maybe work on the power play.
Yeah, the game in Boston is going to be fun to watch to see if there's any changes in the lineup or whatever. I will be interested to see the lineup come Thursday night.
And then Brian P says, I don't think Zajak's that good anyway. He's okay, but I'm not expecting much from him. I will tell you, I am impressed, though, with Kyle Palmieri. I am. I've always been impressed with him when he was there with the jersey. I thought he's got an unbelievable shot, and I cannot wait to see, and I'm praying he gets put on the first line, how much offensive creativity and how many chances he'll have on the offensive side of the puck with alignment like Matt Barzal. I cannot wait. If that happens, that's I guess that's one of the ideal portions. Again, I'm not going to go ahead and say it needs to happen, anything like that yet. It's a really small sample size, but that's something, if I'm just pontificating, I'd like to see that lineup rolled out there.
Yeah. Matt Barzal can make him a star because he has a really good shot. He can make a lot of money this offseason if he plays with Matt Barzal because Matt Barzal is going to get him the puck in good shooting areas. Look what he did today. I mean, he's the best player on our team, and he makes other people better than they are. I'll just say that. If he played with some real top-line wingers, sky's the limit.
REC says, 1-0 since Wallstrom's return. Let's give it a sample size. Grump, he's talking to you, grumpy old man. And we're moving right along here, though. Brian B. there says, the Leafs wanted Foligno. It suits them better than Kyle.
Right. I 100% agree. That's what they needed. They didn't need Kyle Palmieri. They don't have problems scoring goals. It's the nuts and bolts things, the grit element, the defensive play, the responsible play that Barry relies on for everyone. That's what Toronto lacks. And I think it was a good pickup for them. I don't think he's worth in optimally a first round pick, but for them, he is at this particular time.
Got a comment here from Willick Carr here saying Hall only has 2 goals this year. I don't think he's going to be worth it. With a first and a prospect.
I don't think he's going to get a first and a prospect for him.
Really?
No.
I think somebody's going to overpay for him. It happens all the time. I mean, like, it's the same exact thing. I feel like the NHL trade deadline is the equivalent of the NFL draft with quarterbacks. Quarterbacks are always over-selected in the NFL draft, year after year basis. They're always overpicked for where they're projected. And that happens as well at the NHL trade deadline.
Yeah, but that's early, not late. When guys go late like that, the team is desperate to get rid of them at some point in time. And you're going to see that with Buffalo. I mean, I know they're waiting till the last second, hoping that somebody ups their offer. Obviously, someone didn't offer them enough. If you're going to tell me that they turned down a first-round draft pick for Taylor Hall, I'd say they're crazy.
And the Wicked 50 Cal and the YouTube comment here says, to be fair, though, I think Hall is more of a playmaker than a goal scorer.
I think he'd work well with Barzal. The issue I would have would be, is he defensively responsible enough? And we've discussed that before.
Gotcha here, grumpy old man. And then Brian B. also says, the Leafs were not looking for more punch up front. They got plenty. They wanted Foligno for different reasons. They wanted him for the playoffs and his presence on the ice.
That's my man, Brian, my brother from another mother. Without a doubt, he's always spot on. It's 100% correct.
A brother from another mother here. Frank K said Vanek was ass. The funny thing is, I remember Vanek played really well when he was paired up with John Tavares. And you wonder again, did John Tavares help the production of Thomas Vanek?
He did, but he played really well for us. But he wasn't going to re-sign. Everyone knew he wanted to go to Minnesota, so that's why nobody wanted him. That's why we got a puck bag for him. I mean, that's just But here's the thing: they should have moved him earlier, or you should have, when you made the deal for him, you should have saw if there was any chance of him re-signing. And if you found out that there wasn't early, you move him earlier as opposed to the last day. Because once you get down to that final day and you're just trying to recoup assets, you get paid pennies on the dollar.
You get bent over the barrel for certain, grumpy old man. Michael O'Donnell says, Grumpy makes a good point. Why is it that Barzy always has to go without?
Yeah. It was the same thing with Tavares, right? I mean, all right, we weren't as talented back then, but they figured Matt Barzal can make anybody look good out there. Well, to me, I would love to have it where Matt Barzal is scoring like over a point a game. then guess what? You don't your defense doesn't have to be where we got to shut people out or do something spectacular to win games. I would love to see him with a couple of really good wingers.
You want to know something weird I've been thinking about as to why maybe also Travis Zajac might be on that first line there for the foreseeable future. Travis Zajac also does a good job in the faceoff dot. Remember, Leo Komarov, as limited as he was there playing on the first line, he did help go ahead and win those faceoffs once Matt Barzal was thrown out of the dot. And that's Matt Barzal's weakest part of his game. He cannot win well on the faceoff dot. So I wonder also if having Zajac there has something to do also with them trying to win the actual faceoff.
Well, he was playing the wing position today, but think about it. Towards the end of the game, he was playing a wing. So in essence, Travis Zajac is your first line center now. How's that ring?
What do you mean, first line center or first line winger?
No, he was playing at the end of the game. He was playing the center position, and Barzal was
first line wing.
No, at the end of the game, they had Beauvillier coming on for Barzal.
Grump, you just jumped all over the place. Maybe I'm just not catching it. You said that Zajac was playing there on the left wing, and you essentially made a trade there for center. Just explain here.
No, at the end of the game today,
yes,
Travis Zajac was playing the center position, and Matt Barzal, when he was going off the ice, Anthony Beauvillier was coming on. Not like when he was going off the ice, Nelson was coming on.
Gotcha. So they were mixing up lines. They were mixing up lines, is what you're saying.
No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Okay, gotcha there. David S. there is saying, stay away from Hall at all costs. He is a cancer.
The only reason I would say is that he's only a rental. I mean, and maybe he has something to prove. He wants to get another contract, and he wouldn't be here long. I don't think he would infect this locker room if he is a cancer. I don't think he'd have time to infect this locker room. And I just feel that we're too strong, too much of a close-knit team for that to have any effect. It might actually help him playing here.
Brian P. says Barry was all bullshitting about the waiver stuff. He was pissed people would actually question him about Leo over Wahlstrom. I could see that. Honestly, again, I don't rule anything out of the equation. I like to think about it, but I think it has more to do with he wanted to go ahead and keep Zajac and Palmieri together. You know, as weird as it might sound, I think he wanted to keep them together, slowly integrate them into the lineup, and that's really the honest assessment I've got on that.
I think Brian's 100% correct on that. They don't like to be questioned. Like I said, you never hear a difficult question. I don't know if they could even handle being like in Montreal, if Barry could handle that on some of the decisions he makes, or Toronto, because they would definitely ask those questions. Why are you playing Leo Komarov on the first line when you got Wahlstrom who scores how many? When was the last time Leo Komarov scored a freaking goal and he's playing first line minutes, right? And you bench a kid who's got what? I don't even know. What's he got, 7 or 8 goals this year?
He's got 9 goals.
Okay, 9 goals. I mean, Leo hasn't scored 9 goals in a year in what, 10 years? I don't even know. I mean, but somehow he's on the first line. I don't understand it.
Got a comment here also from Robert W. saying Vatanen played tonight for the Devils.
Nobody wants him. Nobody wants him.
Yep. We're continuing to go right along here, grumpy old man. And if we, Tom Whitehouse says, and we have to consider that Wahlstrom has played just over 40 games in the league. He's still a rookie. Tough decisions have to be made. Here's the thing, right? With a team like that, I think Oliver Wahlstrom, when he does have somebody who is a playmaker around him, he really shines. And once Beauvillier was moved off the line, grumpy old man went ahead and made the point that, yeah, they struggled a little bit because, again, they didn't have that playmaker. Even though Jean-Gabriel Pageau can create, when you had an extra playmaker like that, I think it really allowed extra space in for Wahlstrom to shine. And, I mean, when they had that cast and crew of Ross Johnston, Leo Komarov, anybody and everybody could throw out there on that third line left wing, I think it – I'm not saying it really affected too much there with Oliver Wahlstrom, but it definitely doesn't help him flourish. Let me put it like that.
Okay, I've said this 100 times before. I'll say 101 now. I don't care that he's a rookie. Best players play. That's the way it should always be. Best players should play. And a good coach doesn't try to jam players into a round player into a square hole, what you try to do is you try to fit your scheme around the players that you have. You see Oliver Wahlstrom as a guy who's a sniper. Well, you know what? You have to put him in a position where you're going to make the best of his talents. You don't try to turn him into a grinder. What you try to do is put players around him that, especially a young player like that who has a really good future, you want to make it where optimally you get the best out of his talent by putting the players around him that accentuate his talent.
I've got another guy. Carlos C saying, Grumpy, do you miss Uncle Leo yet?
Leo's wife doesn't even miss him when he doesn't go home at night.
You're telling me his life doesn't miss the lollipop?
Nobody misses him. Maybe Marchant misses him.
I was about to say, he misses him, I'm sure. I'll be honest with you. I don't support Leo Komarov in the lineup, but just for the shock factor and the laughter factor, I wouldn't mind him somehow getting out there every single time we play the Boston Bruins. I mean, obviously I'm joking, but in the same token, I always do like to see him mix it up there with Brad Marchand. Even if I could maybe just get one more glimpse of some outrageous event, that would put a huge smile on my face.
How do you get a nickname of Uncle Leo anyway? It means you're old, right? Isn't that what it means?
He's just like the old uncle that's cracking jokes all the time. I think that's how he got the nickname.
Well, you know what? If it's stand-up comedy, great. But for hockey players, I'd want somebody with a better nickname. Lollipop's better.
Lollipop. Tommy B says, hello, boys there. Tommy B is coming on the podcast here this Wednesday. We're talking Coach Tommy B coming on the podcast here, talking about trade deadline. Tommy B says, Matt Martin was terrible today.
He was not good today. He was not. But that's okay. We just kind of gloss right over that on the podcast. It's all right. Like I said, let Matt Barzal he takes one penalty and it's like the end of the world. But this guy takes two lazy tripping penalties, and it's okay.
I gotta come to Matt Martin's defense. That second one, oh come on, that wasn't a penalty, man. Oh man, that guy from the Rangers could have won the Oscars. Come on now.
He had to stick around. He tripped him because he got.
No. Come on.
He deserved it. If it was Matt Barzal, I'm just saying, you would have heard Matt Barzal get ripped on the telecast if he had taken two penalties like that. I'm just going to flat out tell you. Because anytime he takes a penalty, they micromanage it. Well, oh, yeah, that's definitely – we shouldn't have done that. Or when Matt Martin's riding guys down, tripping them all over the place, you know what? I'm sorry. Just call it fair on every side, and I have no problem with you.
I'm going to let you know something. Come on now. Give Matt. I don't try to make excuses for penalties. He didn't. He put his stick towards his shins, and the guy just completely. It's like his feet and his skates just spontaneously left the ice. Come on now. He was trying to go for a little Bobby Orr, a little fantastic Bobby Orr there play and hide. Come on.
He tripped him.
Oh, Jesus.
He never deserved a penalty.
Oh, stop, grumpy old man. Ashley Har says, who has broader shoulders, AJ Malesko or Al Arbor? I don't know. I've never looked at any of their shoulders. People pay attention to things a lot more than I do. I guess I need to start paying attention more to stuff like that.
AJ does have broad shoulders. She does. For a lady, she does. But I think Al Arbor's were broader.
Oh, there we go.
I do want to say something about AJ Malesko, though.
Yeah.
There was something after the last game where they had a little thing on the like women in sports and stuff like that. It was really well done. It was like maybe 2 minutes, and I thought it was really good just listening to her talk about certain things. It was actually very pleasurable for me to listen to. On women's empowerment, and I thought she did a really nice job. They let her talk for 2 minutes, just kind of like on her upbringing and stuff like that. It was really well done.
I'll tell you, and it's not even just like the fact that it's women's empowerment. Hockey players in general, all of them, especially the women, they get no glory or anything like that for the most part. I mean, they're all come from really humble beginnings, and you're very rarely going to see an asshole as a hockey player. It's just not something that's there. It's like certain people in certain types of sports just don't breed players like that because, again, like hockey is one of those sports. Man, oh man, it's just one of those. You're on the ice, man. You just have a different level of respect for people, I think.
Yeah, but I'm just saying the little vignette that they did with her, I thought was really well done.
Gotcha. Thank you there, Grump. Ross N says, do the Islanders try to keep Cizikas?
They'll keep him. Why not? He's over 30 now. Definitely the type of guy you want to sign to a 4 or 5 year deal. Why not, right? I don't know. Why get younger at those positions? Let's continue to re-sign guys in their 30s.
Gotcha.
I'd let them go.
The Wicked 50 Cal, another YouTube comment here says, sadly, today was probably Matt Martin's worst game of the season. Another comment like that.
It wasn't a good game for him.
And Tommy B also says Nicoletti was atrocious today. He did have some poor performance, but that one offensive chance, I was really hoping he was going to get the shot off. I mean, he was leading the attack. He kind of split right through the Rangers defense, just didn't get the shot off. He didn't look great today. It's unfortunate. I thought the Islanders looked dominant in the first 20 minutes. And again, we fall asleep and we have this lull in the second period, and then it's all, back to neck. I mean, obviously Shesterkin kept the Rangers in the game in the first period. If he didn't come up with many outstanding saves, they would have really been in trouble. Yeah.
And also on the positive side, I feel Scott Mayfield's kind of righted the ship a little bit after he had a number of rough games in a row. It seemed like he played a little bit better today.
We've got Grump. I'm going to go ahead and put this one on here. Take it as a joke, I'm sure. Ashley R says, Grumpy's a crusty old senile boomer, initially saying the trade was an F, then 20 minutes later saying it's a B. Someone put that man in a nursing home. Grumpy old man response.
Yeah, I did that. Like I said, I'm just superior to everyone because I'm able to go through the 5 steps of grief in 20 minutes, where it takes everyone else months, weeks, years. I'm able to get right through that.
I was just hoping you're going to say it was a knee-jerk reaction. I really didn't know what you're going to say. We didn't have a chance to talk about that. I just told you. I said, Grump, I'm going to press you on you jumping from an F to a B. You said, yeah, that's fine. I didn't know what your response was going to be. I didn't know you went through the 5 stages of grief in a short 20-minute time span.
Yeah, I did. That's all right. I don't have a problem with it. I'm able to explain myself. You can grill me on anything. Doesn't matter. I'll answer any of your questions.
Grump, that's why you're here. You flow with the punches. Frank K says Sorokin has tremendous side-to-side movement. He's fast. I'll tell you, he sprawls out and he's able to go ahead and make some of those spectacular acrobatic saves.
He's fantastic in shootout as well. I think he's only given
up a goal. It was one goal?
One goal in shootout. He is so athletic. Really, really, really good.
Gotcha. Oh, goodness gracious. And then Will S. says, let's not rip Zajac too much here. He battled hard along the boards, and that directly led to the game winner.
Yeah, he does what he does. I mean, is he a first-line player? No. He's going to give you everything he has. Is he the answer on the first line? No. And as long as you don't – I don't have expectations like that. I didn't think he was bad today. He just is what he is.
I'm seeing a whole bunch of comments, Grump. Can you hear me now? The Nextel commercial. Oh, goodness gracious here. TJ missed a Verizon. TJ, your mic levels are way too low on the stream. I appreciate everybody letting us know, but I'm glad we were able to provide a little bit of laughter there because we got epic fails in there. Verizon commercials, Grump. Oh, goodness gracious. And it's so bad it's good. I knew the first one had to go poorly. I was expecting it to go a little worse, to be quite frank. But I'm glad.
I will give you some constructive criticism. I would have your phone be on buzz as opposed to ring.
It is on buzz.
Okay, it wasn't before. It was ringing, and it wasn't good.
I'm gonna let you know something. So what happens is on my device, it automatically rings. I have to find a way to turn off the notifications there for my phone call. Maybe I'll work on it next time. Grumpy old man. But I'm glad we're able to provide everybody there. Oh goodness. Ari said it's like Kovrov calling his mother in Russia. Collect.
Hey, that is comment of the night right there, without a doubt. Absolutely.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Holy Mother Russia.
Oh goodness.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ari. You made me laugh.
Yeah, you did too. Another YouTube comment. I forgot another YouTube comment. And Mike B, appreciate you letting me know that the mic levels were terrible. Another YouTube comment here. Brian P saying that's why we suck in the second period. Skilled, fast teams are always better in the second period because of the long change. The second period is always the highest scoring period. That's where an atrocious 20 minutes in the second period, and the Rangers are. That's why we're an atrocious minus 20 in the second period, and the Rangers are a plus 20 in the second period. Wow, wow! I did not know that, Brian P. Thank you for letting me know that.
He's right. Very astute observation, Brian. Yes, sir.
Goodness gracious, I'm good.
And we are. We've been terrible in second periods all year long. But that's what happens when you have an older team.
Thank you, Michael Paul. TJ, your mic levels are way too low for the stream. I think I was talking too far away there from the microphone as well. I got a new mic, so I was like, oh, goodness gracious. I knew it was going to be an adjustment time period as well. Yeah. And Tommy Baffy also says Zajac was there for the faceoff. I thought that too. I really think the reason he's playing on the first line is to help win the faceoffs there as well. Adds a little bit of defensive stability because I still think he wanted a figure like Leo Komarov on the first line. Maybe not exactly Leo Komarov, but a guy who can provide the ability to win in the faceoff dot and can provide some defensive structure and help out that first line. I really think it's splitting hairs. As long as Kyle Palmieri plays enough minutes, I'm fine with it.
And face-offs are the weakest part of Barzal's game, for certain.
Yeah, absolutely, grumpy old man. Well, I didn't know if you're going to pontificate on that more. And Ross N says 100% closing the book on Josh Ho-Sang.
Yep, that ship has sailed. Too bad.
Michael M said, how'd they do? It was a bit glitchy there in the start. Michael M, you did great there. I'm glad your first caller there. I'm glad we were able to get the rust off the belt here for me. Yeah, and Brian P says we're the third oldest team coming into the season, so I'd say we're not any younger now. Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I would say particularly after this trade deadline. I guess it depends on what day, whoever you're playing in your lineup. But I'm going to guarantee you when we played the Rangers and Wallstrom wasn't in the lineup, we were not 19th in the league in age.
Ari says, been trying to call for a pizza. Line is busy. Yeah, if you go ahead and call back in, Ari, does that mean he was trying to call us, Grump?
Yes, I'm certain that's what it meant.
Okay, gotcha. If you call back in, it should be available. Sorry,
I told you that was going to be an issue.
Grump, I don't have a million telephones where I can go ahead and put them on hold. This is Islanders Never Say Die podcast. Please be on hold. Sorry, Grump, it comes in so loud like that here.
Jerry Springer.
Welcome to the Islanders Never Say Die podcast. You're with TJ and Grumpy Old Man live. How are you?
Yo, Grump, it is Jerry Springer, man. Yo, what's going on, you guys?
Former mayor of Cincinnati. Gotta love him.
Jerry Springer, always with the hard-hitting questions, always with the unique questions for sure. Jerry, how are you?
You're on with Steve Wilkos and the.
I'm good. I just wanted to test run this. Not so much a question. Just wanted to let you guys know that I love the podcast. Always look forward to listen to you guys. Sometimes I look forward to your guys' analysis more so than even watching the game itself. Just one quick question for the Grump. Did you see AJ's hair tonight? I don't think it was that bad. I think it was a little bit better than usual.
It was not as bad tonight. And I don't know, maybe the humidity is down up in New York. So perhaps her hair was not as frizzy as usual. Or maybe Shannon is giving her some tips. I don't know. But it was not as bad tonight. She's had really bad hair days and other ones that are not as bad. Today was a not as bad day. And we love AJ. We do.
Oh, goodness.
I'd love to get her on this podcast. Honestly, I'd love to get her on this podcast.
Grump, I know we've got a few guests upcoming on the podcast, and I know you're already excited. I gave Grump the list of the upcoming group, and he's excited. He's planning things out for him. Grumpy old man is he's excited. He's excited to mix it up. He's got a few skits, I'm sure, going on there, and I'm looking forward to him increasing the content value that the listener and the viewer gets to see.
Somebody's got to bring entertainment to this podcast. Certainly not you, TJ.
No, it's not me, Grump. I told you, if I had a thimbleful of the charisma that you did, I'm not sure where we would be.
Yeah.
Excellent. So, and then my last question for you guys is, are you guys leaning more towards using Rogaine or getting actual Bosley, hair restoration surgery?
So
TJ, I'll let you take that question, TJ.
I was about to say, I think Grump is far gone past that point. I mean, you look at it, I'm not sure. Grump, I mean, his head, I feel like when your scalp gets that old, I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're doing hair implants, Bosley, it's not going to work. For me, I've got to try everything on the sun. I'm trying horse shampoo. I'm trying taking biotin pills. I'm trying taking Rogaine. I'm trying taking Bosley. I'm trying to hit it with anything and everything. But I think it's such a far gone conclusion that it's already receding. I'm not sure there's anything I could do to go ahead and stop it.
I know something else you could try, TJ. A razor. Just buzz it all off.
I told you, if the Islanders win the Stanley Cup, as much as I don't want to do it, I'd shave my head. And if the Islanders win the Stanley, I don't even know how that would affect business for me. If
Do you think do you think anyone would notice if you shaved your head? There wouldn't be that much of a difference, would it?
Maybe not. I don't know.
You know something I just noticed right now? It looks like you trimmed your little beard down there.
I did. Yeah. Paige was like, this is where she wants it there for the wedding. She doesn't want me to get where I've got like too pale underneath the beard. So I shaved it down a little bit. Grump, I think we need to have you doing, Jerry brought this up. We need to have you doing some crazy items for every single time the Islanders advance in the playoffs. So we have to up the ante. Grump, I don't even know what we're going to have you do if they win the Stanley Cup.
I don't think
idea. I want to go. He's on the phone. That's why I want to give him credit for it.
I don't think I have to worry about that either.
I also need credit for all the hair jokes that have been taking place, all the comments, all of the everything that everybody says. That can all get credited to me. I am the OG hair critical guy for the both of you, and I don't think I'm getting the credit I quite deserve for that.
Well, you'll get all the credit for that because we're just not paying you anything for it. So. You can get all the credit as long as it's not come out of my pocket. I don't care. I'll give you credit.
Yeah, I was about to say, Jerry's the first person who brought it up there. Says, you guys make fun of AJ Malesko's hair from two follically challenged individuals. And I loved it. He called us out on it. And again, it's a nice little running joke. And I always appreciate that, Jerry.
It's different. It's different, though. I mean, unfortunately, it's different. Women if you're on a television and you're a woman, you have to look better than the guy has to look. It's
unfortunate that's how it is. But yeah, they could stick an ugly mug like my face on TV. They'd be like, whatever. He's there because but the lady, they usually have to be pretty looking or something, which is unfortunate. But
true.
Usually they have the standards are.
And then I got one more quick one for you guys. Grump, do you think that at the end of Barzell's 3-year contract that he's likely to sign with us again or no?
Well, he'll be a restricted free agent, so we won't have an option. So in that way, I think he will. I don't know what his agent will say. Maybe he'll just want to go 1 year. That's why I would have tried to lock him up long term. I would have tried an 8-year deal, buy out as much of free agency as you could. And I thought that was a short-sighted. I thought it was short-sighted.
And as far as, do you think that there's a chance that the term with Matt Martin right now being 4 years, do you think that he might, the $6 million man, do you think that he might really earn the rest of his money for the next 3 years after this year? Or do you think it's just going to be a waste?
Well, he's not going to earn the money because he's going to have diminishing returns on his game going forward. So he's not going to earn that money. But it's going to count against our cap.
He's earned money this year.
What?
He's earned his money this year, though. We could say that.
Yeah, he earned his money tonight. He was terrible out there.
As a whole, though, Grump, he's earned money.
Yeah, but the whole thing is he's not going to be getting any better. That's what happens when you sign older players to long-term deals. They're not getting any better. All they're going to do is, I'm going to say it again, hockey players don't age like wine. They age like vinegar. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jared.
No, nothing. I think that there's a chance. I mean, he's going to be like 35, 36 by the end of it. I think that there's a good chance that he might, bring something to the table for that. They might not start him 3 years from now. They might not start him all 82 games. But I do think that. I think that also because of his loyalty sort of to the organization, obviously he did go to Toronto for those 2 years. Personally, as an Islanders fan, I like Matt Martin a lot. I don't have a problem with that contract signing. A lot of people were really upset by the length of it. Personally, I've always looked at him as sort of like the heart and soul of this team, pretty much for like the last, I think over the last 10 years. But I think that he earned that.
I agree with you that this franchise, and honestly, it's an admirable trait. They reward people who've been loyal to the franchise. They give them like a golden parachute. They've done it for ever and ever and ever. And it's really admirable quality. I'm just talking about as a team, trying to build a winning team it's not the smartest thing to do. But I understand why they've done it. Matt Martin is great in the community. The girls absolutely love
I'm
him.
going to say he is a heartthrob.
My God, they gush over him.
This is only my experience being at the games. Every single one, like, oh, Matt Martin, Page, Matt Martin. I'm like, okay, I guess Matt Martin's got those qualities. He looks like a hunk. What can I say? Okay, Matt Martin's a hunk.
They love him. But like I said,
what do you think? Well, one more quick one for you, Grump. What do you think the returns are going to be on Croc Nelson going forward? Obviously, he struggled a little bit in the beginning of the season, but I mean, he's picked up his game a bit. I think he's leading in scoring right now. It's not close to it, but I mean, like, how much of a decline do you expect to see in Croc over the next couple of years?
I think he'll be good for at least another 2 years. I think his last year might be a bit. Remember, they asked him to do a lot.
How many more years do we have with Croc there?
He's got 4 more years, I believe, on his deal after this one. He signed a 6-year deal, I think 2 years ago, so I think he's got 4 left. He's going to be 33.
Do you remember when somebody, I think, and one of the head hockey broadcasters compared his signing to like Jeff Skinner's, because they both got signed the same year to like a similar, I think, length of time. Obviously, Jeff Skinner a lot more, but they had like similar stats, and it was compared, and they were like praising, I think, Lou Lamoriello for getting Croc to sign that. A lot of the head broadcasters were like that was a really good move on the Islanders to lock him up for that amount of time, for that amount of money. You look at Jeff Skinner, and he's making a ridiculous amount of money, and at the time they were similar players as far as stats. Like how do you feel about that?
Yeah, Jeff Skinner is nowhere near the two-way player that Brock Nelson is. He signed, I think, 7 years, $8 million per, where Brock was 6 and 6. He's the one player I feel who has benefited the most out of anyone, with Barry Trotz coming in as head coach.
For certain,
and being a center, a two-way center, which is what he is, as opposed to a winger that Skinner is. I think his value is much higher. I think it wound up being a good deal. I was not for signing any of those guys back. I thought the only guy I really thought maybe because of chemistry Barzal was Eberle. I would have let Nelson and Lee go, but I was mistaken when it came to Nelson. I think that he's going to do well. I don't want to see him re-sign at 33, though. I think you're going to see his game slow down, particularly the last year.
How do you feel about him getting assistant captain? Do you think he's deserving of that?
I don't know. If he hasn't gotten it by now, I would say no. There are other better.
No,
leaders.
he is. They recently made him assistant captain when Andersley got injured.
Yeah. Well, good for him. Good for him.
Yeah, they did.
Gotcha. Well, thank you, Jerry. Thank you for calling in, my friend. I do appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Words there from the former mayor of Cincinnati, saying the podcast is good and enjoys it, Grump. I'm sorry, were you about to say something, Grumpy?
Pittsburgh traded for Jeff Carter.
Oh, okay. I mean, Jeff Carter's towards the tail end of his career, though, too, right?
Yes, he is. I don't know what they got for him.
Well,
I also am seeing something that Taylor Hall traded to Boston.
Wow. Taylor Hall to Boston.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Boston said, you know what? We're too one-dimensional. We only got one line. What do they call it? The excellence line, Grumpy?
Yeah, they're good too. But they want to spread the wealth on that team for certain.
Now, where are you seeing that Taylor Hall was traded to Boston?
I get little notifications here on my phone.
Did it just happen?
Yep. Let me go. I'm going to pull up TSN and see what they say.
I'm not showing anything, Grump, that's saying he's been traded officially. Maybe I'm behind. Maybe I don't know, grumpy old man. Well, let's keep chugging along here. Michael M says, I forgot to mention to TJ and the grumpy old man how good he was. This is talking about Josh Hosang at carrying the puck in on the power play. He was the only other player besides Barzal who effortlessly could take us in. I'll say now we definitely have more of a we have more players who can carry the puck in the offensive zone on the power play than we used to in the past. But that definitely was a trait and a quality that Josh Osang had.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I just wish it would have worked out with him. I'm sorry. I don't
think he's been traded yet because I'm looking, not seeing anything on Twitter, not seeing anything like that just quite yet.
Okay.
So Grump, a little premature there on the call of the trade of Taylor Hall. I don't know if you're just wishing it, you wanted to see it done, or I know that they're saying everything is imminent, but nothing has been done yet. Grumpy old man jumped the gun.
Okay.
Oh, grumpy. Okay, no, what it was is, as reported by Darren Drager, the Boston Bruins have acquired Curtis Lazar from the Buffalo Sabres. It is believed that there's more to the trade, and it could involve Taylor Hall.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Okay.
So maybe a little bit of truth there.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. It'll probably be after the podcast is over before we hear everything, and I'll be interested to see what Boston gave up.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and pop it up here on the screen so you could see it here, grumpy old man. A good call there. But that being said, Darren Drager says, told Curtis Lazar is going to Boston from the Sabres. There's reason to believe it's part of a bigger deal. Awaiting the word on Hall. Stay tuned.
Okay.
Nothing finite and definite just quite yet, but they did make a trade there with the Sabres, grumpy old man. I will tell you here, David C. here saying Letty was a disaster tonight. Crowd was moaning and groaning after every one of his 15 turnovers.
Well, he figures he's going to be protected now because he's played well enough, so he'll stay there with the Islanders. So now he can go back to playing how he has the last 3 years.
Vinny Smith, our man, Vinny Smith here, comments always on the Josh Bailey performance. Oh, man, I think I mixed him up. I think I said Sal does that. I'm sorry. I got to give Vinny Smith credit. I'm sorry, Vinny. Please forgive me, Vinny.
130 games.
1 goal on the power play in 130 games.
And they just roll him out there every night. Every night. I can't explain it.
Tommy B wants to know, do people who call in get a year's supply of turtle wax? No, not yet. If we get turtle wax into work there as a sponsor, maybe we can work a deal out. But again, the phone lines are open. Do remember, if you want to call in and talk with myself and the grumpy old man, phone lines are open. Grump, do you have anything to offer these people who call in? Yeah,
this is not let's make a deal or bowling for dollars. No turtle wax.
Oh, goodness gracious. David C says those six shots of Jameson I had before the game are wearing off, and I just realized that Travis Zajac is on our first line. Please tell me I'm still drunk, Grump.
No. I suggest you start drinking heavily now.
Oh, goodness gracious. Tommy B said, did you find my cardboard cutout? Yeah, everybody goes and finds a cardboard cutout there of Coach Tommy B. They take pictures next to it. And then David made sure to leave a special message there on it for Tommy. I can only imagine what type of message David C. left there on it.
I'm going to bet it's not as nice as it probably should be.
No, probably not. Brett, Let's Go Islanders. He's got a cool design coming up in the way there of a shirt. I don't want to go ahead and give away too much. He said what he was looking to do, and I like the little design work there. He says, how would you – oh, man, I'm having a damn aneurysm.
What would the line combinations be for the best chance to win the cup?
Yes, grumpy old man. I'll let you go first.
All right, the fourth line is going to be the fourth line. I'll tell you what. I might put Beauvillier on the first line with Eberle and Barzal. Leave Zajac on the third line with Pajot and Wallstrom, and I maybe put Zajac on the second line since he's defensively responsible with Nelson and Bailey. I don't expect them to score much anyway. So what's the difference? I want to try to maximize what the first line can give us offensively by putting 3 players who can produce and have produced in the past out there together. That's what I would do.
You're reverting back to the old way. You want Beauvillier back on the third line. You want Zajac. First line. So where do you want Palmieri? Did you say Zajac on a second?
Zajac on the second line. I mean, they're pretty much your third line. They play against the other team's best offensive lines, or that's what he tries to do. He's a good defensive player at this stage of his career. With Nelson and Bailey out there, I'm willing to do that. I want to see more. I want to see Barzal with a couple of wingers who can produce. I don't want to see, just because he's an anchor, have Zajac playing on the first wing. Just like I didn't want Komarov there. I want someone who can produce offensively.
I want to say we blew by the Braydon Coburn trade. And again, I just want to know, do you think he's going to play any role for the Islanders with this just purely a depth move?
I think he's a number 7 defenseman. I mean, I think now you can give Andy Green a day off. Here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see him benching Noah Dobson. That's what I don't want to see happen.
Ross N said it was effing awesomeness when Lou called in. I was about to say, maybe we can get Lou to call in there, grumpy old man, on a consistent basis. So you can go ahead and make sure that your secret conversations and phone calls that happen on the landline, they're done a little bit more in the light, so the Islanders fans can know what's going on.
You will get more probing questions from the grumpy old man to Lou Lamoriello than he's used to getting. That's for certain.
We got Jerry says one last question for you guys. Are you still, if you're still on, what do you think of Ilya Sorokin in shootout? Yeah, we just mentioned there, Jerry Sorokin, unbelievable in shootout. And I'm wondering, is it just because people don't know what his MO is just quite yet, or is it because he's that fantastic?
He's really athletic in net. He's able to do those splits. He is able to stay up. You don't see him falling down like a lot of goalies do. He's really good on those, and he's so athletic.
Well, we got here a comment there, David C. saying, looking forward to the Coburn and Green pairings in the playoffs. That's not going to happen. There's no way Noah Dobson sits. No way.
That's what, are they all both 37 years old? That'll work.
There's no way. There's no way. Brian P. says also, absolutely, guys, Staple and Gross are terrified of Lou and Barry.
It's the truth. They won't ask. None of them will ask any questions, anything, any hard-hitting questions. My first question would be, you want to know what? You said 3 years ago this team needed offense, and you knew it. What have you done? I mean, I guess they can say they went after Palmieri. Long-term, what have you done to rectify that situation? Or do you see yourself trying to add?
John Gabriel Pageau is the guy that went after long-term.
He's a third
Palmieri was that? I'm sorry?
He's a third liner. He's a third liner.
I do want to show you this too. The Toronto Maple Leafs made another deal. They've acquired their David Ritchie, goaltender there from the Calgary Flames, for a third-round pick. So you want to talk about the Toronto Maple Leafs going all in. Now they've given up here this trade deadline already. A first, a third, and 2 fourth-round picks. They are all in for this season, it looks like.
Well, they're going to win the North. I mean, they could never get past Boston, right? That was the thing. They couldn't get past Boston. But now they know they are without a doubt the favorite in the North. They're going to get to be one of the final 4 teams, and then anything can happen, particularly out West. I mean, I don't think they're good enough to beat Colorado, but that would be an absolutely fun series to watch. A lot of scoring, and maybe that's what they're planning for.
Gotcha, grumpy old man. I am consistently scanning Darren Drager's Twitter because as soon as that news breaks there that Taylor Hall was involved in this Curtis Lazar trade in some capacity, I am looking forward to it. Brian P. has got a funny little stat. So far this season, the Islanders are 23-7-3 with Oliver Wahlstrom in the lineup. They are 4-4-1 without Oliver Wahlstrom. Again, I did see that there posted on social media, and it just made me think. I'm like, I did not know he missed 9 games this season. I didn't know that. I thought he had only missed just a short little spurt. I didn't know he had missed and been out for 9 games.
Well, he was also benched for a while too. So, but what is it? Why? You ask yourself why? How is that possible? Because when he's not playing, when a guy with offensive talent isn't playing, who can score and has scored goals for your team, when you're putting in Ross Johnston, Leo Komarov, Michael Del Cole, those players don't score. So, they're no threat to score. So the margin is so much thinner. I mean, it's not a surprise. He's so much better than those 3 players. And he's better than Kiefer Bellows also at this point in his career. And, when you don't give a guy like that a shot, or you don't play, he's, like I said, best players play. There's reasons why they win when he's in the lineup. He's one of the better players. Tommy
B wants to know, are you guys staying up till 2 a.m.? LOL. No, we're not.
No, Tommy. I'm going to tell you what. I've said to TJ before that these contests on Sunday nights go too long because we have jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a banker. Or whatever he is.
I'm not a banker. He keeps saying, I'm not a banker.
But here's the thing. He makes his own hours pretty much, So he doesn't care. And he lives out in the central time zone, so he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Well, Grump, I got news for you. I did not do my homework, and I still cannot pronounce. Is it yes?
Eve. It's God.
I told you I didn't do my homework. Many apologies, Eve. I'm sorry. I didn't do my homework. I did not practice today. I'm sorry, Eve. Eve Leggins saying here, let's make a deal. Braydon Coburn headed to the Islanders after a late night deal with Ottawa. Another YouTube comment there from Eve. I'm sorry, Eve. I'm going to get your name right. Grumpy, I don't know, maybe if I just keep messing it up there time after time so I can go ahead and send Grumpy's blood pressure through the roof.
Just got a notification. It's official. Taylor Hall traded to the Bruins.
Okay, well, I got you, Grump. I'll make sure I pull that up. But now, okay, fair enough there. Who'd you get the notification from?
Elliot Friedman.
Okay, gotcha. Paul W is saying here, it was a good trade tonight by the Islanders.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, 7th round pick for a guy who's been there before. He's the perfect Islander defenseman that they're looking for as a depth guy. I have no problem with it at all.
Gotcha. Yep. Elliot Freeman did say here, he's saying Taylor Hall. Grump, you just actually broke it beforehand. I thought you early and jumped the gun, but I don't know. They say Grumpsterdamus for a reason, right? Elliot Freeman here is saying Taylor Hall to Boston.
Yep.
Oh, look at this. I want you to look at this image right down here. How unbelievably funny is this? Taylor Hall going to the Oilers.
It's not a flattering little picture there.
No, it's a meme. It's a meme, grumpy old man. This is a meme where it's like, they do occasionally for the Islanders. When the Islanders are on a streak, they go knocking past every single team and they kill them one by one. This is saying that every single team Taylor Hall goes to dies.
I understand. I got it. I said it wasn't very nice. It's kind of mean to Taylor Hall. That's all.
It's a meme. It's meant to be funny, grumpy old man. I don't want to have to teach a meme culture.
That's fine.
Fair enough, grumpy old man. I thought it was comical. Anyway, we are moving right along. David C says number 18, Mr. Ed Westfall at tonight's game. Miss him. So much better than Butch, who never shuts up.
I loved Eddie Westfall when he was calling Islander games. He and Jiggs McDonald, they were great together. Oh, the glory days. Jiggs and Eddie. Oh, fantastic. And he was a really good analyst, really good.
Tommy B says Zajac could honestly replace Zizekas on a cheap 1-year deal if Casey gets greedy.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's what you do for fourth liners. You give them cheap 1-year deals. You don't sign them long term. You don't turn one guy into the $6 million man. You don't give Cal Clutterbuck, $3.5 million a year. You don't pay Casey Zizekas $3.385 million a year. You just don't do it. They're fourth line players. You give the big money if you're a team that's smart to offensive talented players who can put the puck in the net on your other lines, on your big lines, on your first two lines. You don't pay your bottom line. You pay your top line. That's how you get the better players there.
Paul W says, is Lou done for Monday?
Yes, he's done.
You think that's it, huh?
He's done.
Fair enough, grumpy old man. Fair enough. I mean, they still have cap space available. I guess, though, not much. I mean, still
we have nothing to trade. He's already given the whole house away. He has nothing to trade. We got those 2 second-round picks for a guy who's one of the top defensemen in the league. That was really smart.
Yeah. I tell you one thing, Devon Taves, we definitely got bent over the barrel. We should have got more value there for Devon Taves. Brian P says, what would you guys think of a first line of left wing of Nelson, Barzal, centering that line, and Eberle, a second line of Beauvillier, Pajot, and Wallstrom, and a third line of Bailey, Zajac, and Palmieri?
No.
Then Barry actually has scores on Brock Nelson that could take faceoffs, and a strong side with Barry, and Barry has big wingers on Barzey's left, but still one can actually score.
Yeah, the third line would do nothing. That would be a nothing line. Zajac is well past his prime. Bailey sucks, and you'd just be wasting Palmieri. I don't want Nelson's he's gonna center that second line. That's not gonna change. Like I said,
Nelson's evolved so much as a player and as a center under Barry Trotz. I think there's no way he's ever going to move from that position.
Yeah,
we totally forgot to mention something. Paul W., thank you for bringing this up. The first goal of the season for Ryan Pulock. I know I was wondering, will he score a goal this year? Ryan Pulock's first goal comes in overtime against the New York Rangers. I'm sorry.
And you could actually argue that Shesterkin should have made that save. I mean, it went kind of right through his arm. Probably should have done better on that. But it was a beautiful feed from Barzal. If anyone's watched, just watch the games and watch how teams play Barzal out there. Always 2 or 3 guys going after him. And if our guys move to spots, they get the puck. They're just not good enough to finish, but he gets them the puck. It's really interesting to watch, and it just tells you how much the team relies on Barzal. And here's the thing, all the other teams know it.
Another comment here from Ari saying the Sorokin versus Shesterkin battle. I was about to say this is going to be one that we're going to see long term. Again, they've been battling it out. They battled out there in Russia. They're going to continue to battle out here in the NHL. There, fighting against their the crosstown rivals there. And again, Sorokin now got the slight advantage, 1-0 there against Shesterkin.
Yeah, Shesterkin. I thought he looked a little frazzled in net today. I mean, he played well, but I thought he was kind of all over the place a little bit. Where I thought that Sorokin looked more composed back there in net.
People want to know, Grumpy Old Man, are we coming out with a 900 number? Tommy B says 1-900 Grumpy. I don't know if we're having anything like that right now. We just have Google Voice set up there, so it goes under a different phone number, not my phone.
$3.99 for the first minute, 99 cents for every minute after that.
Well, that's what Tommy B wants to know. Can we call and collect to the show? The lines are open though for people who are interested. I called in. Some chick asked me if I wanted full service. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, goodness. Like says, good grief. Leave AJ alone, Grump. I know he's talking to you. Leave AJ alone.
I wasn't picking on AJ today. Not at all.
Oh, goodness
gracious.
That
was very complimentary of her, as a matter of fact.
Tommy B says 1-800-J Bailey and 1-800-Komrov there from Frank K. Oh, goodness gracious.
It should be 1-900-DUMP-JB.
Dump Josh Bailey. Angelo R saying Brock is solid. He does everything.
He is solid. He is solid.
Yeah, for certain, Grumpy Old Man. I'm just trying to see if they get any more information out here on this Taylor Hall. Trust me, I am.
He's improved his game immensely since Barry Trott's become coach.
Brian P says, TJ, it's the perfection line. Damn it, I always call it the excellence line. I do apologize here. And Brian B says there, great show again, boys. Always a pleasure. I'm hitting the sheets. I know we're going to be wrapping things up here shortly, Grumpy Old Man. I know I do apologize, Grump. I know it's late for you. I know you're working Maine. I know you got to be up early in the morning, so I do appreciate you sticking on late with us because, again, next weekend, it's going to be another Sunday podcast.
I bet you didn't ask anyone if they'd rather have the Saturday podcast as opposed to Sunday. I bet you didn't even ask because we don't even have a game before next podcast. And we didn't even review the games because,
don't even have to worry about it, Grump. We've got guest Coach Tommy Baffy on. Don't worry. We've got plenty of content to talk about here. Yeah, the trade's done there. I'm seeing a lot of it there. Taylor Hall to Boston. It's done there. And then Brandon Gaines also chiming in. Taylor Hall to Boston. It's official. And David C. saying that Grump was right on Hall. Thank God we didn't get Hall. A lot of people saying, thank goodness we didn't get Hall. John P. says Jiggs and Eddie were number one.
They were great. They were great. Oh, my God. Here's Darren Dragon saying, okay, it's official. We got fleeced for
holy shit.
Palmieri.
Don't worry. I'll post it up. Don't worry. I will post it up. Grumpy Old Man, so I can have you react live here to this. The trade is confirmed. Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar to Boston for Bjork and a second-round pick.
That's a good deal for Boston. We paid too much for Kyle Palmieri. Period. Now you can ask me the question: if it was worth it for Kyle Palmieri and Travis Zajac, the answer is no. Then because look at what Hall didn't net a first-round pick. He netted a second-round pick. That's a good deal for Boston. That's the deal that should have been made for us.
Wow.
Now, the first-round pick means you didn't, and that's what everybody's saying. The longer it goes, the less you're going to get for these guys because they want to get anything for them.
Yeah, what a goddamn steal is right. That is,
and we wanted. And here's the thing: we wanted to. What's the whole thing, right? We wanted to save some bucks, so that's why it winds up being a first-round pick.
I'll be interested to see how much was retained there on Hall too. Here's another thing. I'll tell you, grumpy old man. I wonder if him being a cancer to the team was also taken into effect. Maybe that lowered his draft stat or his trade value. I really am not sure. I mean, only a second round pick for Curtis Lazar and Taylor Hall, and they give away York. So I'm honestly kind of shocked the price was as low as it was.
I told you. That's why I don't. It's why you don't want to give up first round draft picks, especially when there's more than one guy on the market. I mean, what was the market for Palmieri? I mean, they didn't. No one was going to give him a first round pick except us. I heard last week on a Boston radio station that they were saying that they're not offering. They're only offering a second for Palmieri. That's what I heard. Boston was offering a second for Palmieri. And if we would have weighed him out, we could have given him a second. I mean, they got Taylor Hall for a second, and Taylor Hall's a better player than Kyle Palmieri. That's why I asked earlier in this podcast, who's the better player, Taylor Hall or Kyle Palmieri? It's Taylor Hall, and he was got for a second. There you go.
You want to know what's crazy? You want to know what's crazy about this? If you think about it, back in whenever they were drafted, I mean, it was the Taylor draft, Taylor Hall and Taylor Seguin. And it's funny to think that now they had their share at Seguin, and now they've got Taylor Hall. It's just funny to think about there for the Bruins.
Yeah, Seguin got moved because he was too immature, and their locker room wasn't good enough or wasn't strong enough to get him to correct the fly, and they gave him away. They wanted giving him away. He turned out to be a really good player in Dallas.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I definitely was expecting it to cost more there for Taylor Hall, but man, oh man. I'll tell you, the Boston Bruins got a good deal. If I'm reading the Boston Bruins trade right there, that's an A. Even though Taylor Hall is a cancer and a death in the locker room, I mean, it's pretty obvious that the Boston Bruins have an even more finite window than the Islanders. And I'll tell you, they have to be all in it to win it right now at the moment, because if they're not, man, oh man, that's a team that's going to fall from graces quick.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. You say guy's a cancer. He's only going to be there for 15 games in the playoffs. They're not re-signing him. That's why you don't give up a whole lot for those guys. That's my whole point.
Dirk is saying here, good morning, Dirk from Germany, and he was hoping that they're going to trade Bailey in a second there for Hall. Well, looking at the price, man, oh man, you would only have to give up a second. Who knows what else? I mean, like, that'd have been overpaying if we gave up a Bailey in a second there for Hall. Man, he went for next to nothing. Brian P says, a great show always, as always, fellas. I got to get up early. I'll be calling in the show next time. Mateo F there says, let's go Islanders. Pulak just got one. I was about to say, man, oh man, it's nice to see him starting to contribute here. And Angelo here, we're wrapping things up, Grump. Angelo R there says, would you consider dealing Varlamov in the offseason if Sorokin keeps this trajectory?
No, they're going to keep the two goalies. They're going to keep the two of them till he's ready to take over.
I was about to say, I'm not sure who we'd have there as a reliable backup if that's the case, because I think even with the talent that Sorokin does have and it could grow into, I think he always wants to have a strong second goalie. Grumpy old man. Oh man, I'll tell you, it's wow. I'm shocked Taylor Hall went for as little as he did.
What does it tell you about the deal for Palmieri? You still want to give that a solid B now?
I still give it a B. I just give that trade by the Bruins an A. Here's my thing, right? Curtis Lazar is he's not a
slouch.
He's not an unbelievable player, but he's a depth guy down there as a bottom six player. And again, like Curtis Lazar, he's nothing to write home about, but in the same token, he's going to be a depth player down there in the bottom six role for the Boston Bruins, who don't have anything besides the perfection line. But I'll tell you,
Boston made the playoffs tonight. They're going to make the playoffs.
Well,
the four teams in the East are settled. It's done.
Here's my question for you. And I mean, think about it. A second round pick for the Bruins, that's going to be a pretty late. I mean, that's going to be like a second round pick around the 20s, no?
Yeah. That's what happens when your GM is smart. He doesn't overpay. He doesn't overpay. That's what Lamoriello, he overpays.
Notice says there, he reports the Islanders and the Caps were the finalists for Hall today.
Well,
I mean, hell, with the asking price of a second round pick essentially there, I mean, like I understand why Lou Lamoriello went and kicked the tires back on it, but Jesus, man, oh man, it means one or two things. There is no trade value for Taylor Hall, because I think what we're going to see, Nick Foligno gets traded for a first round pick and a fourth round pick. Again, I think it has a lot to do with the amount of cap they retain, but Taylor Hall goes essentially for a second round pick.
And I'm going to tell you what, you have to look at the team situation. I keep saying it to you. When you're minor league system is full of prospects, you can afford to get rid of a first to make a deal like that. But if it's not, you can't. Boston's in a similar situation. They didn't panic and give away a first-round draft pick. They just said, we're just going to give you a second. And I guess, what does it say about what we offered? Probably less than that, right? Why? Because we don't have anything left to trade.
Goodness, grumpy old man. Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap things up here today?
No, I think that's it. I think that's all.
Well, thank you, grumpy old man, for being on the podcast. I know it's late on a Sunday. I know you don't like Sunday podcasts. I do appreciate you making a sacrifice. I appreciate everybody who participated in the live stream and called in. I know the first one was a little rough and shaky, but I'll tell you one thing. I do like having a call-in feature, allowing people to go ahead. I think we're the only Islanders podcast that offers that. I really do, grumpy old man. I think we're the only Islanders podcast that allows fans and listeners to call in on a consistent basis.
No idea. I have no idea.
Well, Grumpy, thank you for being a part of the podcast as always.
My pleasure.
And thank you, everybody, for listening and who called in today. We really do appreciate it. Grumpy old man and I love the enthusiasm, love the amount of people who listen, love the people who call in. We love being able to talk with Islander fans out there. Unfortunate that Taylor Hall went for next to nothing. Makes you think what type of trade value he actually had. I'll be interested to see how he performs there for the Boston Bruins here from here on out. Definitely something to think about here before our next podcast on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But thank you again, grumpy old man.